Chapter 1292. Yihua said faintly. How could my son possibly go and try to please a woman? If that is really the case, break his legs. Give it a try. Donghuang Baiji said. All of His Honor's subordinates who were sitting at the back had a slightly strange expression on their faces. This is much more interesting than being in the imperial palace. His Honor and His Honor's wife's quarrel is especially interesting. At that moment, Qingya's eyes were on the Meridian Break Sex team, and she noticed Lucien-er's existence. Compared to the other girls, Lucien-er was still more outstanding. Therefore, Qingya guessed in her heart that the girl Godyi liked might be her. From the looks of it, he was a good match for Godyi. He had a good temperament and a good height. Baiji, look at that girl. Does Godyi like her? Qingya asked Lucien. Donghuang Baiji looked towards Lucien-er. Donghuang Baiji felt that this girl was not bad, right? However, she was merely not bad. After all, Donghuang Baiji was a mother. Donghuang Baiji still had some requirements for her daughter-in-law. Right now, Donghuang Baiji did not understand Donghuang Baiji. What do you think? Qingya asked curiously. That depends on the girl's personality. Donghuang Baiji said lightly. The relationship between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law was still very important. Qingya nodded her head. Indeed. Since my Yan-er is looking for a wife, I have to take a look at her too. But by the looks of Yan-er right now, it seemed like she was having a headache as well. Yihua naturally heard the conversation between the two women and looked towards Lucien-er. If it was in the past, Yihua would definitely look down on Lucien-er. However, after experiencing the incident with Yihua had gotten over it. As long as the children like Lucien-er, it would be fine. As long as the children like Lucien-er, it would be fine. These parents were all sizing up Lucien-er. However, Lucien-er had no idea that she had been targeted. The first battle was Godye's turn. The audience was looking forward to Godye's performance to see if it was as the rumors said. If it was not, they would be booing. Godye's opponent was a disciple from Deity Institution, but that disciple was currently a little afraid. Why was his luck so good to actually encounter Meridian Break Sex #1 expert? However, as the #1 expert, how could he dress like this? It was really unbecoming of the #1 expert. Even though he had lost his composure, this disciple was still very fearful. Begin. Following the referee's command, the battle between the two sides immediately began. However, Godyi suddenly let out an angry roar, and a noble spirit swept through the scene. He clenched his fists tightly, and the muscles all over his body began to gradually expand. However, he had no intention of attacking, giving off the impression that he was teasing others. The disciple stood foolishly in the void, looking at Godyi in front of him while fiddling with his muscles. What was the meaning of this? Could it be that the #1 expert of the Meridian Breaking sect was trying to seduce him? Why did he do that? Or was it because he was a homosexual? Not only this disciple, but many others felt the same way. My jaw is about to drop to the ground. The martial arts competition has already started, and even after 10 seconds, you are already fiddling with your muscles, or perhaps you are squirming your muscles, acting for the man in front of you to see. The #1 expert of the Meridian Breaking sect really lived up to his reputation. Dong Huangli looked at her younger brother's current appearance and covered her face with her hand. This idiot! Do you really have to be so brazen? Daddy and Mommy are both at the scene. Are you going to be slapped to death? Even if you want to wiggle your muscles, you don't have to be so obvious. Lucien-er looked at Godyi with her eyes and mouth wide open. He said that he likes me, but I'm so angry. At that moment, Yi Yan and Yi Lu were both dumbfounded. When did Godyi become like this? It's so exciting. This idiot's attributes are full of comical, awesome. Donghuang Baiji clenched her fists tightly, wishing that she could tie up her son and bring him back. What is he doing? When did he become like this? The subordinates were also dumbfounded. If Godyi was given an iron rod, he would definitely be able to dance. Yihua slightly narrowed his eyes. As expected of my son, this coquettishness is really bursting. At that moment, Godyi secretly glanced at Lucien-er and realized that the other party was looking at him. She was dumbfounded. Big sister was right. Lucien-er likes muscular men. This vulgar woman doesn't have any inner qualities at all. However, that doesn't matter. All I have to do is complete my father's mission. However, the mission is not complete yet. I still have to work hard. Suddenly, God Yi made his move. Everyone cried out in surprise. The #1 expert of Broken Pulse sect finally made his move. The other party actually did not react at all. Too fast. Too fast. However, in the next second, everyone was dumbfounded. God Yi made a striking posture, revealing the lines of his muscles. This time, he was even more like this disciple. This made everyone feel that God Yi was trying to gain this disciple's favor. The disciple looked at God Yi, and his scalp felt a little numb. He was showing off his biceps, and he even showed me his shark lines. My God. Why do I feel like vomiting? Yi Hua. Don't stop me. I want to go and beat this stinking brat up. Dong Huang Baiji immediately went berserk. This is simply throwing my face into outer space. Even without Yi Hua teaching me a lesson, I want to beat this stinking brat up myself. Let's watch first. Yi Hua said indifferently. Qingya pulled Dong Huang Baiji down as well. God Yi is a sensible child, he wouldn't do this for no reason. All of the subordinates felt that, if that is the case, then his honor. The disciple couldn't take it anymore and immediately threw a punch at God Yi Hua. Everyone quickly look. Shen Academy's disciple actually made his move. Although his speed and strength aren't that great, the strange God Yi actually didn't dodge. Is this the power of love? Or is it some other factor? Let us wait and see. The host said with an excited tone. Dong Huang Baiji wished that she could twist the host's head off. The power of love. The punch landed ruthlessly on God Yi's abdomen. However, God Yi took this opportunity to show off the muscles on his back. He thought to himself that from Lu Xianer's angle, she should be able to see it clearly. I am also a muscular man. Although my muscles aren't very inflated, it is definitely comfortable to look at. Who asked you to be a superficial woman? There's no helping it. Quickly look. Broken Pulse Sect's God Yi chose to receive the punch, then made a strange posture. Look at the lines of his muscles. Could it be that God Yi is planning to use his own body to confuse the enemy? Looks like he has already reached the highest realm of martial arts, fighting with his brain. Yi Hua. Dong Huang Baiji said angrily. How is this using his brain? He has no brain. Chapter 1293. Baiji, calm down. Our sons are not easy to deal with. Qingya let out a long sigh. Fortunately, my 2 daughters are still considered to be normal people, and this can be considered as a kind of consolation for me. Yi Hua will definitely have to take the blame for my son becoming like this. Right now, Yi Hua didn't want to make any statement. I'll say it after I finish looking at it. Dong Huangli turned her head around and took a peek at Lu Xian, and she discovered that Lu Xian, seemed to be about to spit out fire. What's going on? Now there was a wave of hissing sounds. They were not satisfied with this kind of battle. This was simply like playing house. There was not the slightest bit of interest. However, God Yi did not care at all. Compared to the mission, some mockery was nothing. He would teach them a lesson in the future. How dare you mock me, God Yi? He could only repent for today's mistakes in hell. I admit defeat. Just as God Yi was about to show off his abdominal muscles, the disciple finally could not take it anymore. The other party actually used such a tactic to make him surrender. It was simply despicable. Damn it. The audience was silent. The host finally reacted and shouted. Congratulations to Meridian Break Sect's God Yi for taking the first victory. He defeated his opponent with his own muscles, preventing him from fighting normally. As expected of Meridian Break Sect's trump card, he's so powerful. Everyone. God Yi looked at the disciple in front of him, and the latter immediately shrank back. Run now. No one expected that under God Yi's frenzied bombardment, this disciple would actually flee in defeat, which caused a loud roar of laughter. The faces of Shen Academy's side were gloomy, and so were the Meridian Breaking Sects. Just when everyone thought it was over, God Yi suddenly pointed at Lu Xiener. This action caused everyone to stop talking. Yi Hua and the others looked at God Yi. This little bastard has done quite a lot of things today. For so many years, is this the kind of report card you show me? It's a straight fail. Lucien, don't you like muscular men? Have you been conquered by my muscles? You don't need to tell me. I understand that girls should be more reserved. From now on, you are my woman. God Yi shouted loudly, which made Lu Xian'er feel like she had lost her soul. She had no idea where she was or what her name was. When she liked muscular men, but he actually said in front of so many people that she was his woman. How dare he destroy his own reputation? You even made yourself sound so vulgar. Liking muscular men? You're the one liking muscular men. Facing his son's confession, Yi Hua and the others were very surprised. This girl is really someone that God Yi likes. Furthermore, his actions just now were just to gain the girl's favor. Oh my god, Donghuang Baiji didn't know why, but Donghuang Baiji let out a sigh of relief. As long as my son doesn't go in another direction, everything will be fine. So it turns out that Donghuang Baiji is only acting in front of a girl. Yi Lu looked at her big brother and tightly wrinkled her eyebrows. Big brother actually confessed to me in this kind of situation. Is this still the big brother that I knew in the past? Why was he so flirtatious? No wonder he didn't want to fight with me in the first round. So that's what he wanted. He's really like my brother, a scumbag. Yi Yan felt that right now, this younger brother of his will be able to catch up to me. To actually confess to me on the spot, and furthermore, it was very domineering. TSK. Impossible. At that moment, the host laughed loudly. It seems that our expert did it on purpose just now. He wanted to show off his muscles in front of the girl he loves. It turns out that this girl likes muscular men. That's why God Yi is dressed like this. I have to say, it takes a lot of courage to dress like this on such an occasion. This Lu Xian'er is really lucky. Don't you think so? Yi Yan shouted out loudly. That's right, give her a kiss. Yi Yan really knows how to lead the crowd. Following Yi Yan's shout, everyone started shouting out as well. Very quickly, it became 100,000 people shouting out loudly. Lu Xian'er was really unable to handle this kind of situation. A smile appeared on the corner of Yi Hua's mouth. My son is not bad. His method of chasing after girls is really unique. Brother-in-law, look at God Yi, he's so good at being romantic. Qing Yutong suddenly said softly at the side. Qian Yuqing pursed her lips. Yi Hua seems to have never treated me like this before. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji recalled. This fellow doesn't seem to have ever treated me like this before. Look at your son, he's so much stronger than you. Donghuang Baiji couldn't help but say. Yi Hua didn't say anything. We're already an old couple. Why do we still want to be romantic? On the stage, God Yi slowly landed in front of Lu Xian'er. However, right now Lu Xian'er's face was completely red. Don't misunderstand. This was not caused by shyness. This was caused by anger. Dong Huangli let out a light sigh. At this crucial moment, I still need big sister to help you. After all, daddy and mommy are both here. If Lu Xian'er were to reject little brother at this moment, daddy might not be happy. No matter what, Lu Xian'er is sleeping in the same room as me. With so many years of feelings, how could daddy bear to reject her? Thus, with a light push of his palm, Lu Xian'er immediately felt a force pushing her from behind, pushing her into God Ye's embrace. In the eyes of others, this kind of situation looked like she was taking the initiative. God Ye was astonished. So I was tricked. This woman's tricks are so deep. To actually play hard to get, forget it. You've been wanting to do this for a long time, right? God Yi said softly. Lu Xian'er was currently in a daze. She had no idea what was going on at all, and she didn't even hear what God Yi said. However, that seemed to be a tacit agreement. Everyone, I didn't expect that God Yi would be able to hug the beauty. Furthermore, the beauty seems to be taking the initiative. Let us congratulate them. Yi Hua applauded. Not bad, not bad. It's just like me back then. God Yi held onto Lu Xian'er's shoulder, then waved at everyone. Lu Xian'er was dumbfounded. Dong Huangli revealed a smile. Brother, big sister can only help you this much, you idiot. Yi Lu was also feeling happy for her brother. Not bad. Yi Yan had a smile on his face. It was unknown whether he was envious or not. However, the competition continued. At that moment, Yi Hua said faintly, "What do you guys think of this girl?" "We'll see." Donghuang Baiji was the first to express her opinion. After all, she was her daughter-in-law. Qingye said softly, I feel that as long as she listens to Godyi, there shouldn't be much of a problem. There's nothing wrong with big sister's words. After all, girls have to be obedient. Qing Yutong agreed. However, at that moment, Yihua interrupted. Oh, you actually know about the principle of women having to be obedient? The four women rolled their eyes at the same time. That's not directed at you, all right? However, I feel that this girl won't be too bad. Since Godyi has taken a fancy to her, she should have something special about her, right? Qian Yuqing raised her opinion. Yuqing is right. Yihua supported Qian Yuqing's opinion. Chapter 1294. Your Honor, do you want subordinate to go and take a look? The pig liver Denglong who was sitting at the back asked respectfully. Yihua said faintly, forget it, there's nothing much to investigate. Identity and whatnot isn't important. It's fine as long as the person is good. Everyone was speechless, seemingly thinking of Yi from 12 years ago. The atmosphere was a bit sentimental. This kind of thing only happened once. There was no need for it to happen a second time. Now that his younger brother was about to return, he didn't know if he could keep it a secret. Even if he could satisfy him for a while, he couldn't keep it a secret for a long time. However, now that little brother knew that he had a son, he should be happy. That Gong Yu also had it hard. She had raised a child by herself for 12 years, and had always been well-behaved. Time could explain a person very well. Gong Yu could be considered a good woman. If I, the Supreme Overlord, were to leave for 12 years, wouldn't Qingye and the others die from complaining? I can't even compare myself with them. Very quickly, it was Yi Yan's turn. His opponent was naturally Lin Cheng. As Yi Yan walked onto the stage, as his father, Yihua naturally had to properly watch the match. How do you guys think Little Honor will win? Lai Gu, who was sitting at the back, asked curiously. Instant kill, Wei Chong said softly. Yi Zizi propped up her chin and said calmly, how boring is it to instantly kill your opponent? When Ren Yao, who was at the side, heard what Yihua said, she thought to herself, since there is no meaning in insta-killing your opponent, why did you insta-kill me back then? You devil who says one thing but means another. Indeed. There's no meaning in instantly killing your opponent. You have to torture your opponent. Qing Su said indifferently. His body didn't change at all. It seemed like he was addicted to being fat. Do you think everyone is as perverted as you? Pig Liver Ho couldn't help but tease. Qing Su didn't think much of it. If you want to inflict the most painful damage on your opponent, you can't solve the problem in one go. On the other hand, Yihua felt that what Qing Su said was quite right. Looking at his son's arrogant expression, Yihua let out a light sigh. If one were to ask who had changed the most among the children, it would definitely be Yi Yan. Match start. Following the referee's shout, the battle between the two began. Yihua, today, I will let everyone know. I, Lin Cheng, can defeat you. Lin Cheng didn't hold any weapons, but he seemed very confident. He even pointed his index finger at Yi Yan and shouted. Yi Yan waved his folding fan. The two big words on the folding fan were very eye-catching. Of course, there was also the flute at his waist. Lin Cheng, you've always wanted to beat me since you were young, but you've never been able to. What's the motivation that has kept you going until now? Yi Yan was a little confused. Generally speaking, if one suffered such a blow when they were young, they would definitely be traumatized. However, this guy wasn't even knocked down. Instead, he worked even harder. But sometimes hard work might not necessarily be rewarded. And talent is also very important. Just like me, Yi Yan. I am the son of a supreme overlord. From the moment he was born, his life was like a cheat that no one could stop him. Lin Cheng snorted coldly. What motivation? That is the motivation to defeat you. I can't wait for every day to be a little longer, so that I can cultivate a little longer. If you defeat me, what will you get? Yi Yan asked indifferently. Got it. You took away my dignity. I will defeat you. Take back my dignity from your hands. Yi Yan was puzzled. When did I take away your dignity? You can't slander a person like this. This was slander. Slander in front of so many people. This is simply a shameless action. Who likes to take away your dignity? This is such a headache. Lin Cheng, you have to think about what you are saying. I don't have the hobby of taking away other people's dignity. If you say taking away dignity because I can't defeat you, then how much dignity would I have to take away? Don't be so narrow-minded. Be more magnanimous. As a man, you have to be able to pick up and let go. Yi Yan had a look of arrogance as he lectured Lin Cheng. To actually stand on the moral high ground and criticize me. When I was young, I wasn't this shameless. Lin Cheng's expression became sinister. I trained bitterly for so many years, all for this moment. To defeat you in front of so many people, and furthermore, I only used one move. One move? When everyone heard what Lin Cheng said, they all became a bit absent-minded. Although they had never seen Yi Yan's strength before, this Lin Cheng was still a very powerful young man. And yet, he actually said that he only used one move to defeat Yi Yan. It wasn't that he didn't have any credibility. Perhaps he might really be able to make a comeback and become the dark horse this time. Then become famous throughout the world. Hearing Lin Cheng's words, Yi Hua smiled slightly. If you are able to insta-kill Yan, in one move, I, the Supreme Overlord, will take you in as my little brother. Qinya expressed that she was angry. This child is really too arrogant, to actually dare to speak such arrogant words. Oh, really just one move? Yi Yan asked with a surprised look on his face. I didn't expect that after so many years, Lin Cheng would become so arrogant. After winning for a few years, he can become so arrogant? Lin Cheng stood up straight, stared at Yi Yan, and said gravely, this move of mine is specially made for you. It took me 10 years. Today, I can finally use it. What you mean is that you are going to use a big move right from the start. What if you can't kill me with this move? Yi Yan couldn't help but ask. Who would use a big move right from the start? Only newbies would do that. However, Lin Cheng seemed to be very confident. This move of mine is more than enough to make you return in defeat. Lin Cheng, do you know how to play landlord? Yi Yan suddenly changed the topic, catching everyone off guard. After Yi Hua and the others heard what Yi Yan said, they were also very puzzled. Just what is this Yan trying to say? Landlord? Lin Cheng expressed that he did not know. However, Yi Yan did not pay attention to Yi Yan's words. Do you know why the king bomb is always used at the end? This is the same logic as well. Hearing what his son said, Yi Hua went into a daze. Not only Yi Hua, even his subordinates went into a daze. That makes so much sense. Why isn't it the king bomb at the beginning? Rather, it should be used at the end. Little Sovereign actually spoke the truth. Yi Hua felt that Yan did not live these past few years in vain. To actually comprehend the logic behind landlord, not bad, as expected of my eldest son. Qinya felt very helpless. At such a young age, he is already starting to ponder about landlord, and even king bomb. How am I supposed to teach him? This is so vexing. Hearing that, Lin Cheng was also confused. Don't talk about these useless things. Are you afraid in your heart? Are you afraid that you are going to lose to me later? You misunderstood. I am just afraid that you are unable to accept the truth. Hearing Yi Yan's indifferent tone, Lin Cheng became very angry. The thing that he disliked the most was Yi Yan's tone. It was as if he was the number one in the world. You will suffer my wrath and stare at my back from the abyss. After finished speaking, Lin Cheng shouted out in anger, and Do Qi suddenly erupted from his entire body. Everyone cried out in surprise. This Do Qi actually reached the level of a spirit ancestor. Chapter 1295. Last year, he was only a spirit emperor. In just a short year, he actually reached the spirit ancestor realm at such a young age. In the future, his achievements will be no small matter. This Yi Yan is very dangerous. Towards the true strength that Lin Cheng displayed, everyone was very surprised. In actuality, Lin Cheng had been keeping a low profile all these years. However, today was the day that he would be showing off. Even Yi Hua had to admit that this Lin Cheng's talent was indeed not bad. To be able to reach the realm of Dozong at such a young age, among those of the same age, he could be considered as outstanding. However, it was still a pity. After all, Lin Cheng's opponent was his own son. Furthermore, he had to choose Yi Yan as his opponent. This battle was destined to be a losing one. The dookie that erupted from Lin Cheng swept across the entire sky. No matter how powerful a dozong was, they could still change the sky. Just like right now, a layer of black clouds enveloped the sky, giving off a strong sense of oppression. Yi Yan slightly raised his head and looked at the sky, then pursed his lips. What a showy scene. However, when Lin Cheng saw Yi Yan's disdainful gaze once again, the anger in his chest increased exponentially, and the pressure on him continued to increase. Everyone. Lin Cheng. This is Lin Cheng of Shen Academy. To be able to reach the realm of Dozong at such a young age, this is something that we did not expect. However, the trump card of Shen Academy is Yi Yan. I reckon that he is also in the realm of Dozong. It seems like a dramatic scene is about to appear in the internal battle of Shen Academy. Whether it will be a beautiful counterattack or a tragic end, let us wait and see. In Meridian Break Sex Camp, God Yi had already let go of Lucien. Meanwhile, Lucien Er's face was currently red. Of course, this was because she was angry. Everyone thought that she was God Ye's woman. This bastard. However, there was still an ordinary youngster in the camp, and that was Mu Gao. He had liked Dong Huangli for a long time. Just now, when he saw that God Ye's confession was successful, he thought to himself, should I also imitate God Ye and confess to Dong Huangli? This Lin Cheng is quite something. Dong Huangli said softly. God Ye nodded his head. Among those of the same age, this Lin Cheng can be considered outstanding. Unfortunately, he ran into Yi Yan. You make it sound like you're very powerful. Lucien couldn't help but say. God Yi turned to look at Lucien and said faintly, Xian, now that you're my girlfriend, you should understand that you must listen to me and never question my decisions. Do you understand? Since it's your first time, I'll let it go. Don't make the same mistake again. Lucien was so angry that she laughed. Who said I want to be your girlfriend? Everyone saw it just now. I know you're a little shy, so I don't blame you. I understand. It's so beautiful. Don't talk. Lucien was speechless. At the scene, Lin Cheng's battle energy had reached its peak. He was ready to unleash his ultimate move. Yi Yan. This is my own creation. Prepare for the baptism. Oh, you can even create your own? Yi Yan was slightly surprised. Self-creation wasn't a joke. It might even cause him to explode to death. It seemed like Lin Cheng was indeed capable. Lin Cheng said nothing and suddenly pressed his palms together. Pa! A shockwave spread out from his hands, and a strong wind howled. Thunder and lightning crackled and rumbled as he sensed the world around him. With my life, I punish the evil spirit. Your efforts are futile. Call for me again. Divine Book 101 Death Song. The entire place was silent, especially on the side of the Shen Academy. Because the Divine Book only had 100 chapters at most, this Lin Cheng actually created 101 chapters. How could this not be shocking? The Divine Book was written by someone above the supreme level. It was the Shen Academy's strongest attack. The higher the number, the more powerful it was. After Yi Hua saw it, he frowned slightly. This Divine Book was indeed not bad. Qing Yutong felt that this Shen Academy was very similar to the Heavenly Ceiling ghost chart that she encountered in Water City back then. They were both very powerful Dao techniques. It should be Dao techniques, but she didn't really understand. However, in the entire team, it seemed like no one knew this Dao technique. Therefore, Yi Hua allowed Yi Yan and Yi Lu to go to the Deity Academy to study. At the scene, countless golden rays of light condensed around Yi Yan. Every single golden ray of light brought along a terrifying aura. Yi Yan slightly narrowed his eyes and waved his folding fan. Lin Cheng, you are indeed not bad. I have to praise you. Yi Yan really wanted to praise Lin Cheng. He wasn't joking because Lin Cheng really created his own technique. On the basis of the Divine Book, he added his own technique. This idea was indeed not bad. His talent was also very shocking. Praise me? I don't need your praise. Lin Cheng said coldly. Beads of sweat had already appeared on his forehead. It was clear that this technique was a bit strenuous for him. Yi Yan lightly laughed. This song shouldn't be finished yet, right? Lin Cheng's gaze darkened. It was clear that Yi Yan was right. After the Divine Book 90 chapters, the song requires a lot of time, and the number of words is quite high. The The power of your death song is indeed not bad, but it is still not the peak. If this song is not perfected, it won't work. However, I was thinking, it's not that you don't want to, it's that you can't do it. Look at you now, you are already very tired. Hearing Yi Yan's words, Lin Cheng's expression didn't look good, because Yi Yan had hit the nail on the head. It was because the power was too great that he couldn't completely sing it. He could only sing a third of it, but it was also the strongest attack. However, Yi Yan continued, actually, I feel that the divine book's music will take longer to sing towards the end. In a real battle, the enemy won't give you time to sing. They would have already slashed over. The divine book was very strong, but the divine book's music was a bit useless. It could only be used for teamwork, and was rarely used in individual battles. Even if Lin Cheng was right, Yi Yan, this daring guy, would give him time to sing it and then regret it. Therefore, the real value lies in not singing it. Yi Yan said with a faint smile. Then he snapped his fingers and lightly said, Divine Book of Music, Chapter 89, Space Split. Yi Yan's body was instantly wrapped in a rectangular shape. It looked like a mirror. It wasn't very gorgeous, but its defense was very abnormal. That was not the point. After Yi Yan used the non-singing version of the Divine Book's music, the whole place became really quiet. As his opponent, Lin Cheng's eyeballs almost popped out. Everyone from the Divine Book was stunned. Of course, that was except for Yi Lu. For her brother, not singing it was all done in his 3rd year in the academy. It was just that no one knew about it. And she actually used 3.5 years. What's more, her brother's talent was indeed better than hers. Chapter 1296. Everyone in the audience. He had thought that Lin City would be a dark horse by hiding his strength. But the situation had changed. The death song Lin Cheng used was extremely powerful, unprecedented in deity institution as well. However, the unsung music of the Holy Book. This was unprecedented. But Yi Yan did it. Yi Yan. Worthy of being deity institution's trump card. You've shown us what a true genius is. The referee's impassioned words made the atmosphere even more fiery. The audience cheered, but in Lin Cheng's ears, these cheers sounded like mocking laughter. Yi Hua looked at his son. Receiving such cheers from his son is indeed a great honor. Not only Yi Hua. Even Qingye felt that there was light on her face. The pride of a son is the pride of a parent. This kind of feeling is truly not bad. This fellow has grown quite a bit. Dong Huangli looked at her brother Yi Yan and said lightly. God Yi nodded in agreement. The Divine Book music of the Divine Academy is not an ordinary dharma. It's not bad that it doesn't need to be sung. You make it sound like you're very powerful. Lu Xian, couldn't help but ridicule. God Yi narrowed his eyes slightly and said calmly, Xian, you're going to be my wife from now on. Watch your words. I don't want this to happen a 3rd time. It seemed that God Yi had indeed inherited Yi Hua's domineering nature. Back then, Yi Hua had also treated Qingye and Donghuang Baiji like this. It was just that later on, the situation became a bit better. Lu Xianer was very unhappy. She had never seen such a shameless man. Who wants to be your wife? You must be really arrogant. At this moment, Lin Cheng was panting heavily, his eyes filled with rage. This Yi Yan. He didn't even need to chant. Just this alone made him much stronger than him. Don't look down on me. Don't forget. Space Split is only chapter 89. You can't block my death song. Lin Cheng roared angrily at the sky. The veins on his temples looked as if they were about to burst. Those who did not know better would think that they had some kind of blood feud to make such a big fuss. The golden radiance around Yi Yan moved out with destruction. Immediately, the radiance was so bright that people couldn't help but raise their hands to block it. Bang 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 bang. All of the golden radiance exploded. Yi Yan's surroundings were filled with smoke and mist. Everyone didn't know what was happening and could only stare at Yi Yan closely. That power just now was extraordinary. Could Yi Yan resist it? However, Yi Yan didn't use any other defenses just now. Did he give up? Yi Hua, Qingye, and the others expressed that they were very calm. How can our son be defeated so easily? Even if he stood still, he could still use his physical body to defend. As for why he used a defensive move, Yihua thought to himself, my son knows how to act cool now. He really didn't let go of any opportunity. He had the demeanor of his father in the past. As the smoke dispersed, a black figure gradually appeared in front of everyone. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. He was actually all right. Although the explosion just now was not very big, its power was not to be underestimated. It was really blocked. When the smoke completely dissipated, the golden radiance was like the tip of a blade, piercing into Yi Yan's side. However, it was unable to move at all. How is this possible? Lin Cheng's face tightened in disbelief. Yi Yan imitated Lin Cheng's expression and exclaimed, how is this possible? You. It was impossible for Broken Space Strike to block it. Impossible. Lin Cheng appeared to be a bit malevolent. The roar that he let out made everyone feel that he didn't dare to believe what was happening in front of him. Then let me explain to you why my Broken Space Strike was able to block it. Yi Yan snapped his fingers and Broken Space Strike shattered like glass. Of course, the ode of death that was pierced into the Broken Space Strike was still there. However, this thing shouldn't be called ode of death, it should be called ode of death. Towards Yi Yan's action of snapping his fingers, everyone felt that it was very cool and could be imitated. However, Qingye knew that Yan was imitating Yihua, teaching his son these flashy actions. Yihua looked at Qingye's expression and said faintly, what's wrong? In the past, didn't you say that this action of mine was very cool? But now I don't think so anymore. Hehe women. Yihua laughed lightly. Sure enough, before and after marriage, they are two different people. Scumbag, after getting my body, this is her attitude. In the past, she would act coquettishly in all sorts of ways. Look at what she has become now, contradicting me in all sorts of ways. Explain? I don't need your explanation. Hearing what Yihua said, Lin Cheng became even angrier. That arrogant look on your face. Who do you think you are? Are you the son of the King of Heaven? Lin Cheng seems to be the right person this time. The Broken Space Strike in your eyes is only the Broken Space Strike in your eyes. That depends on who is using it, am I right? Yi Yan opened up his folding fan and lightly waved it. His acting cool index had reached 10 stars. Furthermore, the title of Act Tough King Yi was about to be transferred to Yi Yan. The entire audience went into an uproar. This Yi Yan is not bad, no matter if it is in terms of strength or in terms of mouth, he is using strength to attack Lin Cheng. In any case, we are all from the same place, this is really a case of killing each other. Yi Yan is really not letting go of any opportunity. After hearing what Yi Yan said, Lin Cheng's face became distorted and sinister as he pointed at Yi Yan and said, you are saying that I am weaker than you? Your tone is filled with doubt. In actuality, everyone has already seen it. You are indeed weaker than me. Seeing that we are from the same sect, you should just admit defeat and get down from the stage. Yi Yan said faintly. In actuality, he didn't really want to hurt Lin Cheng. After all, this fellow only wanted to win against me. All these years, Lin Cheng had been diligently training and didn't play any tricks. A person who only wanted to win against me in battle, this kind of person can still be counted as a man. You want me to admit defeat? The muscles on Lin Cheng's face began to tremble, and his entire body seemed to be on the verge of collapsing. However, the aura that Lin Cheng was emitting started to rise again. This caused Yi Yan to be a bit surprised. If not for my existence, this Lin Cheng would be the brightest star in the world. What a pity, after I appeared. This star dimmed down perhaps, this is fate. Lin Cheng, there is no benefit in winning against me. Even if there isn't, I also want to win against you. As long as I can win against you, I am willing to do anything. Lin Cheng roared furiously. Do Qi surged out from all of his body and formed a light pillar that charged into the clouds. The black clouds seemed to have been pierced through, and a heavenly eye appeared. The entire audience cried out in surprise. What is this situation? Could it be that this Lin Cheng still has a big move? Yi Yan slightly wrinkled his brows as he kept the folding fan in his hand and shouted out gravely. Lin Cheng, are you crazy? Ha! I am crazy. I am not crazy. I want to win against you. I want to be number one. Lin Cheng shouted out loudly. His strength actually rose from Dozong to Do-di. Chapter 1297. Right at this moment, Yihua said faintly, "This Lin Cheng is a good seedling." After hearing that, Qing Yutong asked curiously, "Brother-in-law, do you have any thoughts?" "It's nothing, I'm just saying that. Although this person is a good sapling, his desire to win is too strong, to the extent that he didn't even hesitate to use all of his do qi. I'm afraid that in the future." Yihua was a little regretful. After all, this method of doing things was completely meaningless, and this child called Lin Cheng had already been blinded by his own desire to win. Qian Yuqing sighed. Youngsters nowadays were always like this. Yeah, youngsters are too impatient. That was what Yihua and Qian Yuqing were thinking. However, the majority of the people that were present felt that this was what a real battle was, and this was what made everyone's blood boil. "Let's not waste any more words. We'll just do it. Lin Cheng, although I don't really like you, your actions will only make me look down on you even more," Yi Yan said solemnly. He was clearly out of energy, but he still acted like he wanted to die with me. I was really annoyed. Lin Cheng's eyes were already bloodshot. He couldn't control his powerful battle energy right now. His entire body felt like it was about to explode. "Look down on me? Yi Yan, I look down on you. You're always sloppy and ignorant. Why does everyone fancy you and not me? How is my forest city inferior to you? When you were kissing the girl, I was working hard on my cultivation. When you broke up with the girl, I was also working hard on my cultivation. I didn't dare to slack off. My strength is the result of my hard work. As for you, Yi Yan, what have you worked so hard for?" When everyone heard this, they fell silent. This might sound unfair, but it was an unfair thing. No matter how hard you worked, you couldn't compare to someone who was born invincible. Yi Yan looked at Lin Cheng. He didn't expect Lin Cheng to have such an idea. "How can you understand my hard work?" Yi Yan clenched his fists and shouted, as if he was going to reveal the inside story that no one knew about. Yihua and Qingye looked at their son, and were very curious about what their son was going to say. All of the subordinates felt that little sovereign must have suffered a lot these few years, and it was the kind of suffering that they themselves would not be able to experience. The children were so pitiful. Seeing Yi Yan's reaction, Lin Cheng was stunned. Looking at Yi Yan's serious expression, could it be that he had guessed wrong? Could it be that he was also training hard? Yi Yan shouted coldly, "How do you know the pain I'm suffering? You guys always say that I, Yi Yan, don't need to cultivate to be so powerful, but do you know the determination behind it?" Everyone swallowed their saliva. Sure enough, every genius was built with sweat. Forest City. Have you experienced the feeling of insomnia at night? Lin Cheng. I often suffer from insomnia at night, which leads to a loss of appetite. I can't even eat well. Can you understand this hardship? Look, I'm losing my hair. If this continues, I'm going to go bald. The audience instantly quietened down. Yihua looked at his son and thought that his son was going to talk about some great principle, but in the end, your son came here to make a joke. Not to mention, your mother was successfully amused by you. Qingye was indeed covering her mouth and laughing lightly. If it wasn't for the fact that there were too many people present, Qingye would have patted her stomach and laughed out loud. This Yan is a bit amusing. Dong Huangli smiled as well. This Yan, just a moment ago, I thought that you were sympathizing with your opponent, and were preparing to enlighten your opponent. So, it turns out that you are the one who is in the wrong. I knew it. How can such a good person appear in our Yi family? Such a person doesn't exist. This Yi Yan is too bad, to actually say such a thing. Lu Xian, who didn't know the truth, said coldly. God Ye's brows tightened. Xian, since you entered Yi family, then Yi Yan is your big brother. Do you understand? Ah. Lu Xian, cried out in surprise. Her brain was a bit unable to process what was going on. Dong Huangli, who was at the side, shook her head. For God Yi to tell such a thing to Lu Xian, then Lu Xian, would either become his sister-in-law, or Lin Cheng knew that he was being toyed with again, and his chest heaved up and down. Pooh! A mouthful of blood sprayed out from Lin Cheng's mouth. Yan! 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 Lin Cheng shouted out 3 times, then spread out both of his arms. Yi Yan held onto his forehead, feeling helpless. Red starlight, grandeur of fire, burn this. Pa. The audience became silent. Yi Yan raised his right hand and muttered, "It's not like there's any deep hatred. Is there a need to commit suicide? You're crazy." Following Yi Yan's stance, no one was able to react to what happened just now. What happened just now was too fast, no one was able to see it clearly. "Everyone, I know what you guys are thinking. I didn't see it clearly myself just now, but I can deduce that before Lin Cheng could even start singing, he was already sent flying away." Although he was sent flying away, Yi Yan still indirectly saved Lin Cheng's life. This kind of moral character is worthy of praise. Let us give Yi Yan a round of applause. The audience immediately applauded. Hearing the applause, Yi Yan pouted his mouth. "Brother, actually you might as well just kill him," Yi Lu said lightly. Yi Yan rubbed onto his little sister's head and said with a slight smile, "If I kill him now, what will I do in the future?" Yi Lu went into a slight daze, then, as if she understood what her brother meant, she laughed lightly. As expected, like father, like child. At such a young age, Yi Yan has already started to groom his opponent. At this moment, Donghuang Baiji said tenderly, "Yaner, this child's heart is still good." "That's right, fortunately he didn't become like that, he. This sentence was very obviously directed at Yi Hua. Yi Hua didn't pay attention to Yi Hua, and a trace of a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. How could these women possibly understand Yi Yan's intentions? This child is not bad, I like him. Not only did Yi Hua understand, every single one of the 7 great sins understood that little sovereign was intentionally not killing Lin Cheng because he wanted to attract hatred. If that were to happen, Lin Cheng would definitely be affected and become Yi Yan's strong enemy in the future. Indeed, when Lin Cheng, who was lying in the pit, heard the cheers coming from outside, his eyes became lifeless. However, his hands were still tightly clenched. Unwillingness, anger, hatred, all of the negative emotions were lingering in Lin Cheng's mind. If Lin Cheng doesn't have the right person to guide him, he will definitely walk towards darkness in the future. However, all of this was within Yi Yan's plan. "I, Yi Yan, am a man of Yi family. How can I be someone that you can kill whenever you want to? Not killing you today is already the greatest kindness that I have shown you. Don't let this kindness become worthless. Properly enjoy your life. Don't make any more pointless struggles. Perhaps, the next time we meet, it might really be the day that you die." "Aya, it's my turn to go on stage." Dong Huangli raised both of her hands and did a set of broadcast calisthenics. Dong Huangli was a bit nervous in her heart. After all, her father and mother are watching her. "I have to perform well." Chapter 1298. Ali is going to appear. Donghuang Baiji said happily, "It has been a long time since I last looked after my daughter. Right now my daughter is a slim and elegant lady." Qing Yutong teased. "Do you guys think that Ali has a boyfriend?" "I don't think so," Qing Ye said lightly. Yi Hua pursed his lips. "My daughter's personal problem is also a headache for me. I wonder if there is a man who is worthy of Ali and Lu. It is still fine if it is a boy, but it is more troublesome for a daughter. After all, she is going to marry out. Just thinking about it makes me feel uncomfortable." On the stage, Dong Huangli's beautiful figure had already walked out. Of course, Mu Gao's disciple was also there. Mu Gao was 3 years older than Dong Huangli. When he first met Dong Huangli, he fell in love with her. Speaking of Mu Gao, he doesn't look very handsome, he is considered normal, but he gives off a very honest feeling. He isn't very strong, he only has the strength of a king realm fighter. Compared to a genius, he is very far behind. Mu Gao looked at Dong Huangli and felt that if I don't say it out today, I might see it in the future. Just now God Ye's confession succeeded. I should try it out too. In actuality, after so many years, Dong Huangli and Mu Gao's relationship was that of ordinary friends. When they met, they would chat a bit, but they weren't close friends. The main reason was that Mu Gao didn't dare to chat, and Dong Huangli wasn't interested either. Everyone. This is the internal battle of Broken Line Sect, Dong Huangli. She is the trump card of Broken Line Sect, and Mu Gao is also a rising star of Broken Line Sect. Let us wait and see. This will be a hot-blooded battle, or a one-sided battle. Along with the host's words, everyone in the audience laughed. He really doesn't give any face at all. Qian Yuqing said curiously, why do I feel that this boy seems to be interested in Ali? Along with what Qian Yuqing said, Donghuang Baiji also watched seriously. That seems to be the case. Qingye muttered. Qing Yutong pursed her lips. This boy called Mu Gao looks honest. I reckon that he isn't Ali's type. Yihua didn't say anything. In his heart, he felt that this kind of boy wasn't worthy of his daughter. In terms of imposing manner, the difference between the two of them was too big. Looking at that expression, it seems like he wants to say something, but doesn't dare to say anything. If a man did not have courage, then he would have nothing to speak of. Senior brother Mu, you must be careful. Dong Huangli said with a joking tone. Towards Mu Gao. Dong Huangli doesn't have any enmity towards Mu Gao. It's fine for me to just casually beat Mu Gao up. Besides, my parents are still watching. Mu Gao swallowed his saliva. He was so nervous that his palms were sweating, and he couldn't say a word. Dong Huangli was confused for a moment, then took the initiative to attack. Dong Huangli punched out. Ladies and gentlemen, Dong Huangli moved. This speed, as expected of the Meridian Break Sex trump card. Even I can't see through it. When Yihua heard this, he became unhappy. It is normal for you to not be able to see it, but if you are able to see it, then that is abnormal. Boom. A gust of strong wind was emitted, causing Mu Gao's hair and clothes to flutter wildly. What are you doing? Dong Huangli asked confusedly. Dong Huangli's fist was right in front of Mu Gao. Mu Gao didn't have the heart to fight at all. Dong Huangli leaped backwards and slightly wrinkled her eyebrows. Father and mother are still watching. What are you trying to do? Although Dong Huangli was teaching her little brother how to pick up girls, when this kind of thing happened to her, she wouldn't understand. This Mu Gao seems to like my sister. Seeing this, God Yi said faintly. Lu Xianer bit onto her lower lip, then said softly, this is the type that I like. This sentence immediately caused God Yi to be unhappy. Then you have to change. God Yi said coldly. To actually say such a thing in front of me, if it was my father, what should I do? I just don't like you. After hearing what God Yi said, God Yi didn't say anything and continued looking at the stage. Lu Xian took a look at God Yi with her peripheral vision. This God Yi actually didn't refute. Ladies and gentlemen, this battle seems to have changed a bit. Just what is going on today? Could it be that the two trump cards of Meridian Break Sect are both going to welcome their own love? This is truly interesting. Following the host's shout, the audience immediately started whistling. If you're a real man, then go. Confess. Mu Gao, you can do it. Don't be afraid. Confess. Confess. Get the beauty back. Yihua's expression darkened. Even Donghuang Baiji's expression became unstable. The subordinates were also a bit unstable. The one who had been in contact with them the longest was Ali. Ali's future husband has to pass through a lot of tests. Therefore, if one wanted to marry Ali's man, one would have to go through a lot of difficulties. An ordinary person would not be able to do that. Right now, Dong Huangli was also not able to remain calm, and her beautiful face became sunken. Don't speak. Dong Huangli said gravely. Following Dong Huangli's voice, the cheers of the audience quietened down. Mu Gao was taken aback and didn't dare to speak anymore. Dong Huangli said gravely, Mu Gao, this is already very good, you know that. When Mu Gao heard what Dong Huangli said, his heart immediately became disappointed. You're a good person. I can't hold you back. The audience sighed. Although they wanted to see a different ending, this was considered a more normal ending. If Dong Huangli agreed to it, then that would be called a reversal of the situation. Right now, Mu Gao was just like a protagonist who was rejected during a martial arts competition, then worked hard to become stronger, and in the end, took revenge. This was a normal ending. I understand. Mu Gao said with a heartache. Originally, I was still thinking that I have the same luck as God Yi. Unfortunately, I am still too weak. If I am a bit stronger, perhaps Dong Huangli will like me. It is very normal for women to like strong men. Don't complain that a woman doesn't like you. It's just that you aren't strong enough. But when you become strong, you will discover that the woman who didn't like you back then still doesn't like you. Dong Huangli let out a breath. Fortunately, I managed to control the situation. Father won't go as far as to kill me, right? However, if Mu Gao is a bit more stubborn, then things might be different. I admit defeat, Mu Gao said lightly. He chose to admit defeat and directly returned to Meridian Breaksex camp. This was a relationship that ended before Dong Huangli even confessed. To Dong Huangli, this was nothing. However, to Mu Gao, this was 12 years of love, and at this moment, it seemed like everything was gone. Big sister, you are crueler than me. Seeing that big sister had returned, God Yi said lightly. Chapter 1299. When it comes to feelings, there is nothing cruel about it. Dong Huangli said faintly, if you don't like me, then you don't like me. Don't tell me that you want me to force you to like me. God Yi nodded. A forced melon won't be sweet. Lu Xian's heart skipped a beat when she heard this, but she didn't say anything. Dong Huang Baiji let out a light sigh. That child Ali has truly matured a lot. He no longer causes trouble like before. When a girl is outside, it is better for her to properly protect herself. Qingye said faintly. Yihua wasn't worried at all. As for his two sons, when boys are outside, they have to properly protect themselves. The competition was still going on. Right now, Yihua was just waiting to watch the fight between the children. He was not interested in anything else. On the other hand, the surrounding people were very interested and were making a big fuss. Yihua leaned onto Qingye's fragrant shoulder and fell asleep. This is truly boring to the extreme. The following battle was what everyone was looking forward to. It was the battle between the trump cards of both sides. God Yi versus Yi Lu. Dong Huangli versus Yi Yan. This caused Yihua, who was asleep, to wake up, and he immediately took out a stick of cigarette to wake himself up. Only then would it be worth watching. Soon, the contestants from both sides were about to go on stage. Right at this moment, Dong Huangli said towards her younger brother, good luck. Don't go easy on me. Got it, sis. After all, he had grown up and God Yi would not act the way he did when he was young. God Yi turned to look at Lu Xian'er and said softly, shouldn't you say something to me? Lu Xian'er bit her lips and did not speak. God Yi turned and flew into the void. Dong Huangli let out a light sigh. Other than the flaws in his personality, this little brother of mine is actually quite a good person. If you miss out on this opportunity, you won't be able to meet him again in the future. In actuality, Dong Huangli felt that Lu Xian'er liked Lu Xian'er a little bit. However, since Lu Xian'er was a girl, it seemed like Lu Xian'er was a little bit unable to put down her pride, or perhaps it was due to some other reason. However, Dong Huangli was sure that if Lu Xian'er still had such an attitude towards Dong Huangli, her brother would rather be taught a lesson by her father than to marry such a woman. If he did, he would really get himself killed. Hearing Dong Huangli's words, Lu Xian'er remained silent and did not say anything. In actuality, Dong Huangli rarely spoke up for God Yi. It wasn't that her big sister didn't want to help God Yi, but rather, if she didn't help God Yi well, it would not be good for them in the future. On the other side, Ian was also talking to his sister. Lu, don't go easy this time. Do your best. Yi Yan hugged Yi Lu lightly and encouraged her. Yi Lu hugged her brother too. She nodded and then pushed him away. Brother, save your hug for other girls. Lu, what are you saying? Brother's embrace will always be the safest place for you. When you're sad, come and find me. Yi Yan smiled as he leaned against her chest. Yi Lu let out a low laugh, like 100 flowers blooming, extremely beautiful. Be serious. Let God Yi take a look. Yes, I will win. After saying that, Yi Lu flew up into the void. After 12 years, the brother and sister stared at each other again. At that moment, God Yi only had the desire to fight and nothing else in his mind. It was the same for Yi Lu now. From the first day she was admitted to the hospital, she knew that she would have to fight with her brother in the future. Today her wish was finally fulfilled. Yihua looked at his son and daughter, and a trace of an arc appeared on the corner of his mouth. Qingye immediately teased him. You are actually still able to laugh when you see your own son and daughter fighting each other. Dong Huang Baiji rolled her eyes. Between God Yi and Yi Lu, who do you guys think is stronger? Yi Hua asked curiously. Of course, Yi Hua wasn't asking Qingya and the others. He was asking the subordinates behind them. This question was rather difficult. Both of them are little sovereigns. It doesn't seem right to say who is stronger, right? Your Honor, Dou Fusher raised his hand. Lai Gu hurriedly said. Dou Fusher, who was sitting in the group, stiffened. How many years has it been? Why am I the one who gets injured every single time? I, Dou Fusher, am also a respectable person, alright? Oh. Dou Fusher, tell us. Yi Hua said faintly. In his heart, he knew that these people were tricking Dou Fusher, and this kind of habit had been going on for many years. This also resulted in Dou Fusher being the first person to answer every question. Dou Fusher rubbed his forehead and asked left and right for help. However, all of his subordinates immediately turned their heads and pretended not to see anything. In any case, this wasn't the first time. Your Honor, in subordinates' humble opinion, both little sovereigns should be very powerful. What else could Dou Fusher say? Even his Honor's questions are so thorny. Of course, do I need you to say that? Yi Hua said faintly. Dou Fusher immediately shut his mouth. Yi Hua looked at the children in the sky and sighed in his heart. Back then, when I sent them out, they were only as tall as my knees. Right now, God Yi is about the same height as me. Everyone. The battle that everyone has been looking forward to is about to begin. God Yi against Yi Lu. Both of them have the same surname Yi, just who is more powerful. Let us wait and see. God Yi looked at Yi Lu, and Yi Lu did the same as well. The two of them were actually sighing in their hearts. Back then, when we separated, we were still so young, and now we have already become adults. Lu is truly becoming more and more beautiful. Yi Lu was also thinking in her heart. Big brother is becoming more and more handsome. He is even taller than me. I remember that when I was young, I was still taller than him. If it was possible, the brother and sister would like to hug each other before fighting. However, the brother and sister knew that they cannot fight with their full strength. After all, if they were to do that, it would be rather shocking. Ha! God Yi took the initiative to release his aura. He wanted to see what his little sister had learned after so many years. A majestic aura instantly spread out. Yi Lu was not to be outdone. Her aura spread out, and the two powerful Duki immediately clashed. At that moment, the MC was extremely excited. So strong! So strong! Are these the trump cards of both sides? In that case, the competition just now is just a child's play. This is a real battle. The Duki emitted by the two clashed fiercely, emitting a dazzling light. The brother and sister were the kind of people who did not speak much. The opening was a battle of Duki. Not bad. God Yi said calmly. Yi Lu said coldly, you too. Then let me see how strong you are. God Yi stretched out his palm, and a long sword appeared in his hand. It was a rather ordinary one. However, Yi Lu did not use a longsword. That was because the two of them did not plan to use any other moves. They were both prepared to use what they had learned over the years to fight. Divine Book 3, Scarlet Lightning. Yi Lu's slender index finger suddenly shot out a red electric current, crackling throughout the entire place. God Yi said calmly, if that's all, then I'll be disappointed. God Yi stretched out his left hand. Without even using a sword, he directly grabbed the electric current and squeezed it hard. It disappeared. The audience was silent. He used his hand to settle it. This God Yi was too strong. Chapter 1300. Yi Yan looked at God Yi's move, and the corner of his mouth curled up. This God Yi is showing off now. He actually grabbed it with his bare hands. Doesn't it hurt? At that moment, Lu Xian'er was looking at God Yi with a complicated look in her eyes. Dong Huangli's words just now could be considered as a warning. He didn't know why, but he felt inexplicably nervous in his heart. He didn't even know why he was so nervous, or perhaps he was afraid. Shin'er, that child, he doesn't use his weapon and insists on using his bare hands to receive the attack. Dong Huang Baiji said in displeasure. Qingya chuckled. Don't you know whose son God Yi is? Yi Hua snorted coldly. What? I feel that this move of Shun's is pretty good, isn't it? All of Dong Huangbaiji's subordinates didn't dare to say anything else. They were all praising God Ye's awesomeness, causing Dong Huangbaiji to roll her eyes. In the field, this was the second time the two children had a direct confrontation. Their hearts were filled with excitement and excitement. If they could, they really wanted to go all out and fight. Only then would they be able to determine the winner. Broken sword style. God Yi shouted coldly and took the initiative to attack. No matter what, he had to let his sister see what he had learned all these years. The broken sword style was a set of sword techniques, and it was also one of the advanced sword techniques of the Meridian Breaking sect. For the Meridian Breaking sect to have such a prestigious reputation, the broken sword style could not go unnoticed. However, what God Yi used was not the original version of the broken sword form. He also added his own ideas to make the broken sword form even more perfect. Yi Lu's eyebrows furrowed. She had also discovered the problem. Of course, Yi Lu had done some research on the broken pulse sex sword techniques, so she knew a thing or two about it. The broken sword form had a total of 3 forms. Each form had its own uniqueness, but the third form was the most powerful. But now, it seemed that her brother had made some changes, and this change was in his footwork. Don't get distracted during the battle. God Ye's figure suddenly appeared behind Yi Lu, and reminded her softly. Yi Lu's eyes widened in shock. Divine Book Music, Chapter 10 Void Piercing. God Yi directly slashed down. Boom. A huge shockwave appeared at the scene, and the two of them instantly separated. The audience was silent. This was a duel between experts. Ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if everyone has noticed, but God Ye's broken sword form is different. His speed became even faster. Never seen before. Could it be that God Yi had secretly modified the broken sword form? This was incredible. As expected of a genius-level figure. It seems like Yi Lu of the Deity Institution is in danger. Qingya was shocked just now because God Yi seemed to have really slashed her just now. What if Lu'er was injured? This god. What are you doing? Little sister, you are also serious. Dong Huangbaiji was very angry. If Lu'er is injured, how am I going to explain to Qingya? However, in the eyes of the subordinates, this situation was nothing. It was a battle, so they should go all out. Otherwise, what was the point of fighting? However, from the looks of things, God Yi seemed to have the upper hand. After all, Meridian Break sect was considered a melee fighter, while Divine Academy was considered half a long-range fighter. If they were to compete with what they had learned, God Yi had a slight advantage. Yihua was naturally able to see that Shun had actually gone easy on Lu'er just now. If not, Lu'er might have already been injured by now. However, towards his son's achievements during these few years, Yihua felt very gratified. As for his son getting injured during the battle, that was something that was unavoidable. Of course, Yihua hoped that Yihua and his son would be able to go all out during the battle, and not have any misgivings. As long as the injuries were not fatal, it would be fine. After all, it was only a spar. At that moment, Yan became slightly serious. My little brother didn't just play around all these years. As expected, his strength is very strong, no different from when he was young. I wonder how my big sister's strength is now. She might even be a bit stronger than my little brother. Dong Huangli placed both of her hands behind her waist, and slightly raised her head to look at the sky. Dong Huangli's expression was very calm. This battle is still worth watching. My parents will probably not be disappointed. Xian, or do you wish for God Yi to win? Dong Huangli suddenly asked. Lu Xian came back to her senses and pursed her lips. Xian, if you say it out, your heart will feel better. If you keep it in your heart and don't say it out, it will actually be very uncomfortable, right? If you like him, then you like him, there's nothing to be shy about. If you still care about other people's opinions, I will talk to God Yi later on and tell him to stop pestering you. Dong Huangli wasn't joking. For her little brother to do this today, he had already lowered himself. If Lu Xian still doesn't care about it, then there is no need for him to continue. Although we are good friends, I don't wish to have such a sister-in-law. Lu Xian felt both shy and panicked. I was originally rejecting him nicely, And now that I suddenly agreed to it, isn't this a bit losing face? Who said that a girl shouldn't care about face? When the time comes, other people might even say that I was attracted by Gai's beauty. No. Lu Xian'er said subconsciously. Dong Huangli laughed lightly. That's enough from now on, we are a family. When Gai wins later on, go over and give him a hug. Hug? Lu Xian'er felt that she wouldn't be able to do such a wild thing. Looking at the black mass of people in front of her, it is truly difficult for her to do such a thing. What are you being shy about? Sometimes a girl has to take the initiative as well. Taking the initiative is the story. If you don't take the initiative, the story won't happen automatically. Dong Huangli said with a smile. I'll give it a try. Lu Xian'er said with a red face. I was actually moved by Ali's words. I must have gone crazy. After hearing what Dong Huangli said, she didn't say anything. She looked at her little brother who was in the sky. This is all big sister can help you with. I know that you like him. But no matter how much you like him. On the stage, Gai waved the longsword in his hand. That longsword could be considered as a relatively ordinary artifact. However, no matter how ordinary it was, in front of everyone, it was still a priceless treasure. Are you still not going to show me some of your abilities? The Divine Book's music is indeed powerful, but Shen Academy doesn't have just this, right? Gai pointed at Yi Lu and said faintly. Yi Lu had been careless just now. After all, Gai's move was unexpected. Since you want to see it, I'll fulfill your wish. Yi Lu said coldly. At this moment, the two icicles started to become serious. Suddenly, a thick wave of battle energy gathered towards Yi Lu. Everyone could sense this terrifying pressure. In fact, many people were unable to endure this wave of battle energy, causing the two supremes of the organizing committee to appear and set up an invisible barrier. Right now the host was no longer calm. With a hoarse voice he shouted, Everyone! All kinds of audience! Could this be Shen Academy's Breaking Dawn? How is this possible? Only Dozun can use Breaking Dawn. No. One should only be able to comprehend it after reaching Dozun. And Yi Lu actually managed to use it. It can't be Shen Academy's trump card. The surprise that Yi Lu gave us is too much. Previously, I thought that Gai was slightly stronger, but my thinking was wrong. Right now, the situation is 50-50. Of course, if Gai doesn't bring out the corresponding ultimate move, the situation might not be 50-50. Chapter 1301. Not bad. The children seem to have worked hard all these years. Yi Hua had no choice but to admit that these little fellows had already matured, and in the future, they would be able to become the pillar of Yi family. However, Qingye and Donghuang Baiji didn't think so. After all, the two of them were their children. How could they play around like this? Looking at the two of them now, it seemed like they had a deep hatred for each other, wishing for nothing more than to spill blood on the spot. I have to stop the two of them. They're being ridiculous. Donghuang Baiji couldn't bear it anymore. Swords have no eyes. What if I get injured somewhere? As a mother, I will die from heartache. You're the one messing around. Yi Hua shouted out gravely. The children wanted to have such a duel, but not only did you not support it, you even rushed over to cause trouble. You are truly becoming more and more unreasonable. Donghuang Baiji didn't pay any attention to Donghuang Baiji. And just when Donghuang Baiji was about to rush out, Yi Hua immediately sealed the Empress. While I'm at it, I also imprisoned Qingye as well. These two women in recent years, they are really becoming more and more mischievous. I, the Supreme Overlord, must have indulged them too much and didn't discipline them properly, which is why such a situation has occurred. Yi Hua, what are you doing, still not letting go of me? Qingye immediately looked at Yi Hua coldly. Yi Hua ignored the two gazes of death, and his subordinates pretended not to see or hear anything. His honor seems to have lost his temper. Qin Yutong and Qian Yuqing didn't say anything. At this time it would be best for us to not go and provoke Yi Hua. If not, when the time comes, even we would end up being imprisoned. For Yi Hua to be able to imprison the two ferocious wives, it could be seen that Yi Hua's strength was still that formidable. Yi Hua, release me, or we will divorce. The empress said darkly. Yihua didn't even look at her and said faintly, I don't think we are married yet. Everyone. The subordinates' scalps went numb. Is this how his honor handles the relationship between husband and wife? Wasn't this a little too cruel? However, I have also learned it. When my woman flips out, I will also learn from his honor and act like an overbearing CEO. Are you afraid or not? Qingye and Donghuang Baiji were immediately in a bad mood. It would have been fine if Qingye didn't mention marriage, but the moment Qingye mentioned marriage, they immediately became angry. How many years has it been? We haven't even had a single decent wedding. Previously, they had been talking about holding a wedding after the conquest of hegemony. Only then would it be more stylish. But all these years, you've been hammering iron and haven't done anything else. If you wait until your conquest is over, who knows when you'll be able to? Are you letting go or not? Qingye and Donghuang Baiji shouted out coldly at the same time. Yihua did not speak and looked at the children silently. Qingye immediately turned to Yilu and prepared to shout. Daughter, your father is abusing your mother. Yihua didn't know what Qingye wanted to do, and he immediately sealed Qingye's mouth, not even letting Donghuang Baiji off. Right now, Qingye and Donghuang Baiji were unable to move at all, and they couldn't even speak at all. They could only use their gazes to tell Yihua that a quarrel was inevitable. Everyone's subordinates discovered that this doesn't seem to be a joke. They are really scolding each other. This is so scary, domestic violence. It's a real fact. However, at that moment, God Yi and Yilu did not know that Yihua had offended the two tigresses for the sake of the two of them fighting in peace. They did not even know if they could be appeased. What? Will I coax them? Haha, that's not going to happen. This time, I won't coax them even if I'm beaten to death. I'll just let them do whatever they want. On the battlefield, a berserk aura swept across the battlefield continuously. Yilu's body was enveloped by a golden light, and only a beautiful figure could be seen. God Yi slightly wrinkled his brows. Is this Shen Academy's trump card, Daybreak? It is indeed formidable. In just an instant, my little sister's strength rose by a few levels. Boom. Suddenly, a golden lightning descended from the sky that was filled with dark clouds and struck onto Yilu's body. Everyone cried out in surprise, thinking that an accident had occurred. However, that wasn't the case. When the golden lightning struck onto Yilu's body, it did not cause any damage to Yilu. Instead, a golden lightning effect appeared around Yilu's body, and it looked very scary. Daybreak, as Shen Academy's trump card, was rarely seen in the world. Even the experienced and knowledgeable host was unable to say a thing or two about it. After quite a while, the golden light on Yilu's body dimmed by quite a bit, and only a thin layer of golden membrane was left behind. There was even a bit of golden electric current around the membrane. At that moment, Yihua felt that if his daughter's hair turned golden, she would look a bit like the manga that he read a long time ago, Super Saiyan. Not bad, this is more like it, God Yi said faintly. Yilu stared at God Yi, and with a clench of her hands, a double-edged spear appeared in her hands. Flame-breaking spear. Yilu said coldly. Come, God Yi shouted out, not daring to be careless. Then you better watch carefully. Yilu said faintly. This caused God Yi to be startled. However, in that instant, Yilu threw out the flame-breaking spear in her hands. The speed was so fast that it made people's hair stand on end. Yilu, who had activated Daybreak, no matter if it was her strength, speed, or reaction, all of them had improved. This kind of improvement was very terrifying. However, from the looks of it, Yilu was also a javelin expert. The flame-breaking spear whistled through the air and attacked towards God Yi. Even the heavens and the earth rumbled, and the friction between the spearhead and the air produced a huge pressure. If this attack were to hit, the consequences would be unimaginable. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji both closed their eyes. In their hearts, they were thinking that if anything were to happen to the children, they would definitely teach Yihua a lesson. Even Lu Xian had covered her eyes, not daring to watch anymore. God Yi didn't expect that Yilu, who was in Daybreak, would be so powerful, especially when it came to javelins. The flame-breaking spear brushed past God Yi's ear, and a strand of hair floated in the air. However, The flame-breaking spear that did not hit its target flew far away. And then boom! Everyone saw a huge explosion that happened far away. The entire ground was overturned. And not long later, a wave of air swept over. This kind of power, everyone could only express it with their frozen expressions. When Qingye and Donghuang Baiji saw that kind of damage, they really wanted to slap the two children's butts. What's wrong with you two? Why are you two fighting each other? On the other hand, Yihua was very satisfied. Brother, be more focused during the battle. Unknowingly, Yilu's delicate body appeared above Gadye's head, and in her hands, another flame-breaking spear appeared. Everyone did not manage to see it clearly, but they were extremely shocked in their hearts. Could it be that this flame-breaking spear is limitless? Gadye felt a terrifying aura coming from above his head. The long sword in his hand immediately rose up and shouted out coldly, "Broken sword style. Second style. Storm wave." The body of the sword could be seen immediately shining with a huge light, just like a silver moonlight. However, this silver light, why does it look like ice? Two majestic auras clashed fiercely against each other. The golden and silver light seemed as if they were going to tear the ground apart, making it hard for people to look straight at them. Chapter 1302. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji both closed their eyes. The way the children are fighting, they are simply too reckless. In the past, when I was still young, I didn't fight with all my might like this. Back then, when I was still at home, I would always stop when the time was right. But look at what is happening right now. It was as if they were enemies that they hadn't met for many years, and they wouldn't stop until they got rid of the other party. On the other hand, Yihua and his subordinates admired Yihua's actions very much. This is what a battle should be, and it isn't like when we were young playing house. Everyone was shocked by the scene in front of them. After all, such a battle wasn't something that could be easily seen. In particular, Yilu's breaking dawn was something that others might not be able to witness in their entire lives. The dazzling light gradually dissipated, and a figure suddenly descended. Boom! The maple forest valley below suddenly shook, and a crater was formed. Countless maple trees in the surroundings were broken, and the sight of it made one's heart ache. Yilu stood in the air and looked down. She was like a goddess, exuding an aura that no one dared to blaspheme. Since Yilu was still standing, the person who just landed must be Gadye. The Empress was completely flustered. Her pair of beautiful eyes stared fixedly at Yihua. As if anything were to happen to my son, I will fight it out with you. Once again, Yihua ignored the Empress's gaze. If Gadye were to lose so easily, then he wouldn't be Gadye. Lu Xiener now knew that the one who fell was Gadye. She was extremely worried, and her tightly clenched palms were full of sweat. Yihua took a look at Donghuang Li, who was beside him. Donghuang Li's expression was the same as before, and there wasn't a single bit of worry on her face. However, the situation that happened next caused everyone to be shocked. Even Yihua went into a daze for a moment. Donghuang Baiji was about to collapse, and Qingye wished that she could grab onto Yilu's butt and spank him. Because Yilu raised the spear in her hand. This action of his, it was very obvious that he knew what she wanted to do. Bang! The fire-breaking spear left Yilu's hand and flew toward the landing point. The terrifying pressure swept across the scene again. All of the subordinates were a bit stupefied. Little Honor is acting like this. Isn't he afraid of being taught a lesson? Brother-in-law, let's just forget about it. Qin Yutong couldn't help but say. Yihua did not say anything and continued to watch the battle. Qin Yutong did not continue speaking. She knew that no matter what she said right now, it would be useless. Look at the Empress, she is already crying. My big sister is also about the same. Brother-in-law is really. Let's see how you are going to clean up the mess in the future. Everyone had seen the destructive power of the flame breaker spear. If it landed, the entire maple forest valley would probably turn into ashes. Within everyone's eyes, the golden flame breaking spear seemed to be very frightened. The third move of the broken sword style. Release. A figure came from below. Needless to say, it was definitely Gadye. Furthermore, what he used was the broken sword style's ultimate. Liberation. This was the meridian breaking sex specialty, and it was similar to Yi Lu's Breaking Dawn. They were both trump cards. The host lost his composure again and shouted, "It's actually the third move. It was the third style of the broken sword style. My God. Today, I actually got to see Meridian Break Sect and God Academy's ultimate technique. This is simply an eye-opener for me. Even if I were to go to the Western Paradise now, I would still be able to die without any regrets." Everyone had heard of the third style, but they had never heard of it. In any case, it was a very awesome style. Suddenly, a huge amount of do-chi surged from below. This do-chi appeared very calm and reserved, but it had a very strong offensive nature. Bang! The smoke produced by the collision was instantly blown away. God Ye's figure appeared. However, everyone had never seen God Ye in this state of mind before. The long sword in his hand had already disappeared, and a set of silver armor suddenly appeared on his body. He was fully armed, and even his hands and feet were wrapped in armor. Everyone stared at God Ye in a daze. So handsome, so handsome. Even Yehua felt that he was simply a super handsome man. As expected of the main body's son. Seeing that her son was fine, the Empress breathed a sigh of relief. On the other hand, when Qingya saw God Ye, she began to worry about her daughter again. It must have been hard on those two mothers. Heavenly Wolf Jade Emperor. God Ye stared at Yi Lu in the air and said calmly. Although Yi Lu was surprised, she quickly calmed down. The third move of the broken sword style. That was to release one's own weapon. That was the most powerful part of the broken sword style. Integrating the weapon into one's body would result in a qualitative change. Yi Lu had never seen it before. That was the first time. This meridian breaking sect was indeed powerful. God Ye looked at the falling flame breaking spear and raised his right hand. Everyone was shocked by that action. What was God Ye trying to do? Was he going to catch the blade with his bare hands again? That was right. His dragon claw-like palm grabbed the spearhead. Poof! A terrifying wave of air suddenly spread out, and the ground under God Ye's hands sank a little more. But he caught it. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Such a terrifying explosion just now, but now he could catch it with just his right hand. That was too ridiculous. However, what was even more ridiculous was that God Ye grabbed the spearhead tightly and tightened it. Gotcha! A crack could be seen with the naked eye. The crack instantly spread to the entire spear body, and then it shattered. Yi Lu frowned. Her brother could actually hold the flame-breaking spear. How was that possible? Just as Yi Lu was in a daze, God Ye disappeared. Yi Lu's eyes were filled with horror, and a sense of terror spread in her heart. Divine Book, Chapter 89, Skybreaker. Yi Lu shouted. Everyone was shocked once again. Yi Yan did not manage to chant it earlier, but Yi Lu could do it as well. He was indeed the trump card of the Divine Academy. Too powerful. Bang. However, under God Ye's feet, Skybreaker shattered with a kick. That kind of terrifying power shocked Yi Lu. This meridian-breaking sex release was too powerful, especially when the user was her brother. Yi Lu formed another flame-breaking spear with both of her hands, and God Ye's feet landed on the spear body. Yi Lu retreated a few steps back. Fortunately, Skybreaker reduced some of the force. Looking at her brother who only had his eyes exposed, Yi Lu's breathing became a little rushed. God Ye's body disappeared again. His speed was too fast, and it was impossible to catch him. Yi Lu was indeed shocked, but she was still able to catch up to her brother's speed. The whole place was filled with banging sounds. A huge pressure hit on the barrier, making people worry if the barrier would be damaged. Yihua even strengthened the barrier himself to not disturb the children's mood. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji swore that they would never forgive Yihua this time. Looking at the two children bleeding, as mothers, their hearts ached to death. It was the first time they met for 12 years, and they saw the children killing each other. Is this Yihua's way of education? It's simply cruel. However, the audience was indeed satisfied. It was a battle that was rarely seen in 100 years. Such young children. They were already so powerful. Chapter 1303. Yi Yan became a little serious at that moment. His brother and sister were both suppressing their strength and using the knowledge they had learned over the years. It could be said that they had a 50-50 chance of winning. However, it seemed that God Yi had the upper hand. That also showed that Meridian Break sect was indeed stronger than Shin Academy. After all, Meridian Break sect belonged to the melee category. Shin Academy's melee combat was not mainstream, and neither was Taoism. It was more balanced and did not stand out. He had previously discussed with his sister about their fighting style. It was indeed difficult to win against God Yi, unless they did not use anything from Shin Academy, and went all out to fight God Yi. Breaking Dawn was considered the top martial arts technique of Shin Academy, but unexpectedly, it was still weaker than Broken Sword style. Therefore, Yi Yan and Yi Lu concluded that they had to fight with their brains and not rely on fighting head-on. That way they would definitely have no chance of winning. The key to victory was still the Divine Book movement. However, Yi Lu raised her own opinion. No matter how much they suppressed their strength, the toughness of their bodies was there. The Divine Book movement could not defeat her brother. Yi Yan knocked his sister's head, indicating that they did not want to beat the opponent until he could not stand up, but to let God Yi know that the brain was good and defeat the opponent with strategy. Didn't Dad always say to use your brain? We should follow suit. At that moment, Yi Lu remembered the conversation with her brother, and immediately distanced herself from him. A few wounds had already appeared on her body. God Yi's armor also had cracks. That was simply cheating. Look at your sister. She did not even wear armor. As the brother, she still wore armor. How could she be a brother? She deserved a beating. What? Are you admitting defeat? God Yi asked calmly. Although he said that, he knew in his heart that his sister was not the kind of person who would admit defeat. She probably wanted to use other methods to defeat him. After all, he could see his own shortcomings. It was impossible to defeat him by attacking. His sister would definitely start with the Divine Book movement. Last night, he discussed with his sister about the fighting style. In terms of offense, Meridian Break sect was stronger than Shin Academy. That was why his sister used Breaking Dawn to fight him head-on. She realized that she did not gain anything and could only stop now. She must be using the Divine Book movement now, and it was different from before. Big Sister's words were still lingering in Luer's mind. If Luer wants to win against you, she will definitely have to use her brain. There are a lot of traps in the Holy Book's music, and if all of them are combined together, it would be very powerful. Therefore, if he wanted to defeat Yi Lu, he had to end the battle as soon as possible. You are very strong, Yi Lu said indifferently. Thank you. But you're definitely going to lose today, Yi Lu declared. She was going to beat her brother today. God Yi was stunned for a moment, then said with a smile, Lose? I hope you can accept this ending. Then you'll have to bring out even more strength, Yi Lu said coldly. Both of his hands immediately emitted out a green-colored glazed light, and he slowly shouted out, Divine Book of Music, Chapter 41 Ning. However, before Yi Lu could finish, God Yi shouted coldly, Kill. The whole world seemed to have quietened down, as if time had stopped. No one could say a word. The situation in front of them was completely incomprehensible. Sister, you've lost. God Yi appeared behind Yi Lu and whispered in her ear. 5 dragon claw-like fingers were pressed against Yi Lu's jade neck. All it would take was a light stroke to destroy her. Yi Lu breathed a sigh of relief, then said indifferently, I've lost. At that moment, Yi Lu had to admit that she did not see her brother's movements clearly. Even though they were in the same realm, her brother was still stronger than her. It seemed that she had not trained hard enough for so many years. She had to continue working hard in the future. God Yi chuckled. Luer, I'm very happy to see you. You're getting more and more beautiful. I'm not going easy anymore. Yi Lu snorted softly, hammered her brother, then landed. God Yi laughed in his heart. Oh Luer, you only realized now. In the past, I always went easy on you. If I didn't, how could you be my opponent? However, if it was her brother. God Yi looked at Yi Yan, and Yi Yan looked back at God Yi. Their gazes met, and the friction seemed to ignite the desire for battle. So surprising. So exciting. This battle is enough for me to brag about for the rest of my life. Yi Lu's strength showed us the strength of Shenshin Academy. But God Yi, he's even more powerful, and the last killing intent, defeated Yi Lu. As expected of the meridian-breaking sect, the audience suddenly cheered. The armor on God Ye's body dissipated, turning into the shape of a sword in my hand, then disappeared. Dong Huangli poked Lu Xian, then took the initiative to go up and give her a hug. Lu Xian, was extremely nervous. Forget about hugging, she could not even say a word. The battle just now made Lu Xian, extremely nervous, but she also wanted to see God Ye's majesty. As expected, a man who attracts women is like this. That aura during battle, bringing victory and triumph. Which woman can withstand God Ye's charm? After being threatened by God Ye, Lu Xian, seemed to be afraid. God Ye walked towards Lu Xian, Lu Xian lowered her head, not daring to look at him. Her pretty face looked like it was about to bleed. She was screaming in her heart, "Don't come over! Don't come over!" However, a masculine aura came over, and her heartbeat accelerated as if it was about to jump out of her throat. "Xian God Ye called out softly. Lu Xian really wanted to faint and not know anything after that. Dong Huangli said faintly, "Brother Xian wants to give you a hug, but I'm shy." After hearing that, God Ye went into a daze, appearing to be a little surprised. Then he looked at Lu Xian, who had her head lowered, and asked faintly, "You want to hug me?" Lu Xian did not know why, but she felt like hammering the man in front of her to death. "I'm older than you. You should have some manners." Therefore Lu Xian said seriously, "Be more polite." Right after she said that, Lu Xian felt a huge inertia, and her body was already leaning into God Ye's embrace. "This should be considered polite," God Ye said faintly. His tone was filled with madness and dominance. "Men should be like this, never be afraid, and never let go of an opportunity." Smelling a special smell, Lu Xian subconsciously hugged onto God Ye's waist. "I'm sorry, I smell a little sweaty," God Ye said softly. At first Lu Xian was still very shy, but after hearing that, she immediately pushed him away. That really is a special smell, it really ruined the atmosphere. Dong Huangli originally thought that her brother was a challenger, but in the end, she did not expect him to be a bronze. The atmosphere was just right, and you already said that he smelled like sweaty. Everyone else would think that this was a sign of manliness. Chapter 1304. Brother, I lost. Yi Lu came to Yi Yan's side and said apologetically. Yi Yan smiled, patted his sister's shoulder, and said, "It's fine. That guy God Yi came out earlier than you. Let big brother teach him a lesson later." Yi Lu rolled her eyes at her brother. What does this have to do with being born earlier or later? Big brother, when you fight against big sister later on. Yi Lu was a bit worried. Dong Huangli is the big sister, and according to your logic, if you were born earlier than her, you wouldn't be a match for her. Yi Yan put away his frivolous expression and said seriously, "Although it will be very difficult, I still want to win against big sister." "Brother, be careful. I'm not like God Yi." Yi Lu reminded him carefully. Yi Yan nodded. Of course he knew. Although his sister didn't cultivate much when she was young, she was actually stronger than him. Moreover, after so many years. At that moment, Yihua felt gratified. God Yi is still the same as always, especially that last move. It's pretty good. When it came to martial techniques, Yihua's forte wasn't Yihua's forte, and Yihua had to rely on his own strength to fight. Therefore, Yihua's children should also learn more about martial techniques, and this was also one of the reasons why Yihua's children were sent out. Wu, Qingya and Donghuang Baiji let out muffled sounds, and their beautiful eyes stared straight at Yihua. Yihua ignored them once again. "No matter what, you all have to shut up for me today. Don't disturb me from watching the children's performance." Yihua was very much looking forward to the next battle. Between Ali and Yan, I wonder who is stronger between the two. Yihua felt that it should be Ali. After all, Ali was the one who inherited Yihua's deviant flame. Suddenly Yihua thought about it. It seems like we can only use the deviant flame that we have learned. This is hard to say. Yan, might even be able to give me a pleasant surprise. After all, among the four children, Yan was the one who had changed the most. Although Yan seemed to be smiling mischievously, Yihua could still feel that Yener had changed the most. Sister, be careful. God Yi reminded his sister, who was about to walk out. Okay, I got it. Brother seems to be different from before. God Yi murmured. Dong Huangli laughed lightly. I can sense it. However, Yener, you have been following behind me since a long time ago, and it will still be the same in the future. God Yi did not say anything after hearing that. His sister seemed very confident. God Yi was a little worried as he watched his sister fly into the void. Will he win? Lu Xiener murmured. Call me big sister from now on, okay? Oh, seemingly having admitted to their relationship, Lu Xiener loosened up a lot. The host became excited again and shouted, Everyone! Everyone! Dong Huangli and Yi Yan were going to fight again. I don't know what kind of surprise this battle will bring us. I'm afraid it will be even more explosive than the last battle. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji looked at the children who were in the middle of the stage, and they were so angry that their teeth started to itch. They really wanted to press Yihua down onto the ground and beat him. All kinds of beatings. To actually look at the children fighting, and not even stop them. Is there a father like you? While smoking, Yihua looked at the two children and felt very satisfied in his heart. The subordinates looked at the two little sovereigns and revealed a happy expression on their faces. Especially when they looked at Ali. Their eyes were filled with love. Little Ali was the happiest person in the team. In the field, Donghuang Li and Yi Yan were currently looking at each other. Donghuang Li and Yi Yan's gazes were cold and ordinary, as if the two of them weren't siblings at all, but enemies. His acting skills were not bad. As a member of the Yi clan, how could he not have some acting skills? Yi Yan suddenly opened his folding fan and lightly fanned himself. You seem to be very strong. You aren't weak either. Dong Huangli said faintly. I will win against you today. Yi Yan's words were filled with incomparable confidence. This caused Dong Huangli to be a bit puzzled. Seems like little brother has a trump card. But then again, I have a trump card as well. Furthermore, father and mother are watching right now. I can't afford to lose this battle. After all, I, Dong Huangli, am father and mother's pride. Although Yi Yan didn't know that his parents were watching right now, he was thinking in his heart, I can't lose to big sister. If this matter were to spread to father's ears, how embarrassing would that be? Boys can't even win against girls. Dong Huangli said faintly. If you want to win against me, you will have to see what abilities you have learned. That is only natural. When have I ever disappointed you before? Yi Yan kept his folding fan and threw it towards Yi Lu. Yi Lu held onto the folding fan firmly. Dong Huangli looked at the flute on Yi Yan's waist. Of course, she knew that this flute was given to Yi Yan by his father when he was young. It can be said that, out of the 4 children, Yi Yan's flute was the most awesome. Yi Yan took out the dragon abyss on his waist, played with it for a bit in front of his big sister, then threw it towards Yi Lu as well. Yi Yan was clearly telling big sister that even without using this flute, little brother can still win against you. Looking at her little brother's actions, Dong Huangli didn't say anything. This brat is really arrogant now. He actually dares to act cool in front of big sister. I will let you know the consequences of acting cool later on. It has been 12 years since we last met. Why? Do you want to act cool with big sister now? This is what Yi Yan is thinking. When I was young, big sister brought little brother along to act cool and fly around. Now that you have grown up, it is time for little brother to bring big sister along to fly around. This is truly unimaginable. Yi Yan from Shen Academy actually threw out his own weapon. What is the meaning of this? Is it 4? Or is he already trying to find an excuse for losing? Following the host's voice, Dong Huangli sneered. If not for the host's reminder, she would have almost been tricked by her little brother. Yi Yan cursed at the host in his heart. Such a deep trick was actually seen through by you. You are truly wasting so many expressions. Let's begin then. Dong Huangli said with a slight smile. Yi Yan clenched his fists tightly and even slightly bent down, just like a ferocious tiger that was about to hunt. However, Dong Huangli didn't even try to defend herself, and even placed both of her hands behind her back. Her acting cool index had reached 10 stars. Seeing his big sister's movements, Yi Yan slightly went into a daze. Then he looked at his own movements. It seems like it's not symmetrical. This way, I seem very low. As expected of big sister. Even after so many years have passed, she is still the same as before. However, Yi Yan's figure instantly disappeared. His speed was so fast that no one was able to react to his speed. This speed is even a bit faster than Gadia's speed just now. Furthermore, right now, Yi Yan didn't even use any martial skills, and Gadia was still using broken sword style. Big sister. Yi Yan's figure instantly appeared behind Dong Huangli's back, and with a karate chop. It seems like knocking big sister unconscious is the best way to win. Dong Huangli said lightly, Yener, when did you learn to attack from the back? Attack when they are unprepared. Yi Yan said faintly. Are you sure that you want to attack when they are unprepared? Dong Huangli said faintly. This caused Yi Yan's brows to become wrinkled. Green smoke could be seen floating out from Dong Huangli's body. Yi Yan's face turned pale with fright, and subconsciously dodged. Furthermore, he pulled Dong Huangli to a safe position. Chapter 1305. Dong Huangli's body could be seen being enveloped by a strange green smoke. From a single look, one could tell that it wasn't a good smoke. After all, how could a good smoke be green? It should at least be white. Qing Su's eyes, who was behind Yi Hua, lit up. He became very interested in the green smoke. Although this is the first time I've seen Little Honorable, I feel that Little Honorable has my own understanding of how vicious Little Honorable is. Qing Su, what is this? Yi Hua asked curiously, ignoring Qingya and Dong Huangbaiji who were beside him. As a poison master, Qing Su was able to distinguish it with his eyes. When Qingya heard that Dong Huangli used poison, she immediately lost her composure. Just what is going on? They are even using poison. We are both siblings, is there a need to do this? When the Empress heard that her daughter actually used poison, her expression tensed up. She seemed to be not very happy. Your Honor, this should be a type of poison that causes people to hallucinate. Qing Su said respectfully. Yi Hua took a puff of the smoke, then returned his gaze back to the stage. In actuality, Qing Su was only looking at the poison with his eyes. In his heart, he felt that the poison was probably even more formidable than what he had imagined. After the Little Honorable returns, we can still exchange our insights with each other. Who knows, there might be some unexpected results, and we might be able to concoct a different type of poison. All these years, Dong Huangli had quite a lot of experience in concocting medicine. When she just entered Vein-Break sect, she caused a huge commotion. This kind of situation lasted for a few years, and in the end, it was finally resolved. However, Dong Huangli's prestige had already been revealed, causing everyone to be afraid of her. Only Mu Gao, who was not afraid of death, dared to confess to her. Yi Yan looked at his big sister and wrinkled his brows. Although he had heard of his big sister's prestige before, when he saw it now, he still felt very surprised. Big sister is really addicted to concocting medicine. If you are not going to go, I am going to go. Dong Huangli said faintly. The poison that was surrounding her body seemed to have a life of its own as it transformed into a green poisonous snake and rushed straight towards Yi Yan. Everyone was startled. This is the first time I've seen something like this. Poison can be used in this way too. Even Qing Su's eyes lit up. Not bad. This is really not bad. Little Honorable is actually able to play around with poison, controlling it with qi, and even transforming the poison into a poisonous snake. Although it was a little gaudy, it was still pretty good in terms of aesthetics. All of Qing Su's poisons are formless. Although it is able to make it impossible for the enemy to guard against it, it lacks a kind of aesthetic value. Take a look at Dong Huangli's poison. Dong Huangli's aesthetic value is already there, and the poison has also reached the level of toxicity. From the looks of it, it is time for me to change my poisons. At the very least, he couldn't let the enemy die without knowing why. Yi Yan secretly cursed his sister for being despicable. She actually poisoned her brother. How could she play like this? If father knew that she used such a despicable method, he would definitely scold her. However, Yi Hua wouldn't blame Dong Huangli because of this. After all, defeating your opponent is still defeating your opponent. Who cares what method you use to defeat your opponent? Only the dead would complain. The living will always be the victor. Divine Book of Music, Chapter 89 Void Rend. Yi Yan shouted in a low voice. Against this kind of poison, it was better to be a little more cautious. Only by using a top-notch defensive skill, space severing, could they be safe. After all, this was his sister, he could not be careless. Broken space wrapped around Yi Yan, creating a vacuum state. The poisonous snake that was transformed from the poison smashed onto space severing, then immediately dispersed and wrapped around Yi Yan. Right now, Qingye was so nervous that her palms were starting to sweat. I swear that I don't want to see children fight against each other anymore. Donghuang Baiji was the same as well. Ali, you are the big sister. How can you poison your little brother? Of course, these were all women's thoughts. There was nothing for Yi Hua to worry about. Ali knows what to do. Even if Yan is poisoned, Ali will have the antidote. What Yi Hua thought was right. Donghuang Li indeed has the antidote. As long as we achieve our goal of winning, everything will be fine. She just wanted her brother to suffer a little. She wanted her brother to know that her sister was still her sister. If he followed her, there would still be a way out. Yi Yan looked at the surrounding green poison smoke, and his expression became a bit grave. The poison smoke actually didn't dissipate. Could it be creek? Yi Yan actually saw a crack appearing on space severing. He was instantly stupefied. Just what kind of fucking poison is this? This creak sound spread throughout the entire venue. Everyone's scalp went numb, and Qing Su even stood up. Your Honor, you must definitely introduce subordinate to little His Honor. Qing Su actually said with a voice that carried a hint of longing. Yi Hua asked curiously, what's wrong? Your Honor's poison is simply too mystical. Generally speaking, a type of poison only has one type of effect. However, little His Honor's poison actually managed to achieve two types of effects, and furthermore, it is even able to control the effects. This is simply unimaginable. Little His Honor is much more talented than subordinate in terms of poison refinement. Qing Su couldn't help but praise Ali. Ali's poison has simply refreshed my view of poison. It's not that I didn't think about it in the past, but I never succeeded. But today, I actually saw it with my own eyes. How could I not be shocked when I see it with my own eyes? It was rare for Yi Hua to hear Qing Su praising someone, and he felt very proud in his heart. I didn't expect that Ali would have such a high achievement in terms of poison refinement. In actuality, the reason why Donghuang Li was able to have such an achievement was related to the strange flames that she inherited from Donghuang Li. In fact, if she were to fuse two different kinds of strange flames together to concoct a poison, the effect would be even better. That was the reason why a poison with two different properties would appear. Right now, Donghuang Li was even preparing to fuse three different kinds of strange flames together. Just that she was a bit afraid. Qing Su didn't succeed because he didn't have the drug to fuse two kinds of supernatural abilities. Otherwise, he could also make a poison with two different properties. Although it didn't sound very useful because he could just throw out two kinds of poisons, the effect would be different in actual combat. The main thing was that it could create an effect that was impossible to guard against. Victory was just that difficult. What kind of poison is this? Yi Hua asked curiously. It should be a corrosive poison. However, to be able to corrode broken space, this kind of material is extremely hard to find. Little Sovereign sure is generous. Qing Su sighed. This is a bit of a spendthrift. However, what Qing Su didn't know was that Donghuang Li was able to touch pulse break sex medicinal herbs whenever she wanted. Furthermore, there was even a special group of people who were gathering medicinal herbs for Donghuang Li. Of course, Donghuang Li had also concocted quite a lot of healing medicine for Meridian Break Sect. Hearing that it was a corrosive poison, Qingye couldn't remain calm anymore. What if Yan gets disfigured? This is too reckless. I have to stop this competition. Yi Hua could feel that Qingye was going berserk. It seems like Qingye wants to struggle free from my restraints. This kind of situation is understandable. However, children have their own sense of propriety, so you shouldn't interfere. I, the Supreme Overlord, really want to see how Yener is going to deal with Ali's two types of poisons. However, this child Ali seems to be cheating. After all, in order to concoct such a poison, Ali used a strange flame. Therefore, Ali is suspected of cheating. Chapter 1306. This is amazing. I have long heard that Meridian Break Sex Dong Huangli has very high attainments in concocting medicine, and from what I have seen today, her reputation is indeed well deserved. Yi Yan from Deity Academy seems to be in a disadvantageous position. This is truly an eye-opener for me. The martial arts competition this time around is truly going to be very interesting. Right now, let's see how Yi Yan from Deity Academy is going to get out of his predicament. The host's voice was still as sonorous as before, but he was so excited that he lost his voice. At this moment, Yi Yan seemed to have calmed down. In fact, he had already expected this to happen. However, he had not expected that even Duan Kong would not be able to defend against this poison mist. How shocking! However, Dong Huangli had also thought about it well. She had intentionally targeted Duan Kong, and thus she was able to grasp all of the rhythm of the battle. You're still too young, Dong Huangli said faintly towards Yi Yan. The meaning behind her words was very clear. In the future, you should just follow your big sister, and don't even think about asking your big sister to follow you. Yi Yan's voice resounded throughout the entire venue. Just how confident is this low laughter of his? Dong Huangli went into a daze. What are you laughing at? Is there any other meaning to smiling? Or perhaps Shinshu 101 Sierra Leonean Leones, Range Hood. Yi Yan slowly shouted out. With this shout, everyone present was incomparably shocked. It was Chapter 101 again. Was this also self-created? But this name, why is it so weird? Above the heads of the two people, a huge black hole could be seen. The inside of the hole was pitch black, and with just a look, one could tell that it wasn't anything good. A suction force was immediately emitted, and the green poisonous smoke was directly sucked up. Dong Huangli looked at the kitchen range blankly. I finally understand why this fellow called this thing as a kitchen range hood. Yener is truly amusing. Yi Hua was amused by his son's actions. Not bad, not bad, this son of his has some brains. Qingye immediately breathed out a sigh of relief. Dong Huang Baiji was the same as well. When she saw the children fighting, she was trembling with fear, and was afraid that something might happen to the children. Oh my God! Another 101 chapters. Previously, Deity Institution's Lin Cheng also developed 101 chapters. I never thought that Yi Yan would also develop his own. And from the looks of it, it's even better than Lin Cheng's. It doesn't even need to be sung. It's just too strong. Yener is really not bad. Qing Yutong said with a slight smile. This little nephew of mine has indeed grown up, and girls like him. Not bad indeed. Yi Hua nodded his head, affirming Yi Yan's performance. Just that, this name isn't domineering, it's just that it's very appropriate. Dong Huangli pursed her lips. This brat actually also knows how to target me. Yi Yan patted the robe on his body and his lips curled into a smile. It's self-developed. Not bad, right? I know you like to play with poison, so I specially made it for you. As long as the competition doesn't end, this cooker will always be on and all the poison you release will be sucked away. Dong Huangli let out a breath, then said faintly, this move of yours is indeed not bad. It made me exclaim in admiration. Now is not the time to be amazed. You have to fight properly. Bring out your broken sword style. Yi Yan shouted in a low voice, and a golden halo gradually condensed on his body. It seemed like he was the same as Yi Lu, opening Breaking Dawn, and increasing all his attributes. If you use broken sword style, it won't be fun anymore. Dong Huangli said lightly. Hearing his sister's words, Yi Yan's face darkened. Underestimating the enemy is not a good move. This isn't underestimating the enemy, this is a type of confidence. Dong Huangli said faintly. Yi Yan immediately condensed a broken flame spear with both of his hands, and the berserk aura that Yi Yan emitted was truly amazing. If that's the case, I will crush your confidence. Yi Yan shouted out angrily, and his eyes were filled with crazed fighting intent. Dong Huangli could sense the change in her brother. This brat, he has become fond of fighting. Since that's the case, big sister will have to properly teach him a lesson. Although there is nothing wrong with boys fighting, one shouldn't get too infatuated with it. Dong Huangli could be seen taking out a glass bottle. This caused everyone to go into a daze for a moment. They felt that there wasn't anything good inside the glass bottle. However, Yi Yan was still very vigilant. He didn't directly attack the glass bottle. Instead, he chose to defend himself. Come out, Great Emperor Venomous Moth. Dong Huangli crushed the glass bottle, and a firefly-like thing flew out. Everyone's gaze landed on the firefly-like thing. What is this thing? Just from the name, it seems to be very powerful, but this size. I don't dare to compliment it. Even Yi Yan went into a daze for a moment, then scolded himself inwardly. I'm being too careful. After all, she's my big sister. I have no choice but to be a bit careful. This is Great Emperor Venomous Moth? You're really like an ant. Yi Yan could not help but tease his sister. You think that it's too small? Fine, I'll fulfill your wish. Dong Huangli said with a slight smile. In the blink of an eye. Just a moment ago, it was just a puny poison moth emperor. But now, it had turned into a colossus. In front of it, humans were just like ants. When the purple wings spread out, they were 10,000 feet long. There were all sorts of glowing patterns on the wings, and they didn't give people a good feeling. There was only one eye on its huge head, and it didn't have a pupil. This kind of creature made people feel uncomfortable all over. Its body was like a long chrysalis. The only difference was that it had many legs. Those with trypophobia should never look at it. It would be disgusting. Huh. The venomous moth emperor let out a shrill cry that sent chills down one's spine. Right now, Qingsu was so excited that he stood up and said with horror, This is a rarely seen poison. Where exactly did little sovereign find such a species? All of the subordinates couldn't help but sigh. The four overlords have all grown up. They are no longer as cute as before. Dong Huang Baiji was stupefied. It's fine for a girl to raise a ragdoll, but my daughter is actually raising such a huge poisonous creature. My heart can't take it anymore. Mama's going to have a heart attack because of you. Qinya began to worry about my son again. If my son gets swallowed by that thing. Qinya doesn't even dare to imagine that scene. You actually cheated again. Yi Yan's head was about to explode. What happened to the one-on-one duel? Not only did you use poison, you even found a helper now. Big sister. Why are you still the same as when we were young, catching me off guard? You're making your little brother feel very uncomfortable. Dong Huangli laughed. What you said is wrong. How can this be called cheating? This is just a poisonous creature that doesn't have any attack power. Like I would believe you. It's so big, and you're telling me that it doesn't have any attack power? It's true that the venomous moth emperor doesn't have any attack power, but before Dong Huangli could finish speaking, the venomous moth emperor opened its mouth. Countless shadows could be seen flying out from its mouth. Taking a look, all of the shadows were small poisonous moths. Yi Yan's expression sunk. He immediately threw out the flame-breaking spear in his hand, and a terrifying pressure immediately rushed towards the venomous moth emperor. However, Chapter 1307. The flame-breaking spear was immediately wrapped up by countless black shadows, and the dazzling light immediately disappeared. It seemed like the flame-breaking spear was devoured by those poisonous moths. Such a result shocked everyone. Everyone knew how powerful the flame-breaking spear was, but these little insects were actually able to devour the flame-breaking spear that was created. How could everyone not be shocked? Right now, Lin Chung, who was wrapped up like a mummy, once again appeared at God Academy's side. When he saw that Yi Yan was being suppressed by the moths, he wanted to clap his hands and give this arrogant brat a good beating. I want to teach him a lesson, and let him know that there is always someone better out there. Tens of thousands of poisonous moths rushed towards Yi Yan. This was something that Yi Yan did not expect, but Dong Huangli did. All the steps were within Dong Huangli's control. This kind of thinking was frightening. In actuality, the biggest change was Dong Huangli. She was so cute when she was young. She was simply lovable. She knew how to act cute and act cute. But now she is simply. Yi Hua, who was watching the battle, was very satisfied. Yi Yan's performance was indeed not bad, but Ali's performance was even more outstanding. From the start until now, Ali had been suppressing Yan, not giving Yen any chance to take a breather. I didn't expect that Ali would have such a mind after growing up. In the future, I will be able to relax and let Ali take care of things. Yen still has a lot of things to learn. When I go back, I will let him learn more from Big Sister. As for God Yi and Yi Lu, their main path of development is still to improve their own strength, which is also what they like. The battle was just like playing landlord. Every card had its own purpose, and Dong Huangli's performance seemed to be more proficient than Yi Yan. Meanwhile, Yi Yan was being led around by Dong Huangli. From the overall situation, Dong Huangli was winning. Yi Yan looked at the insects in front of him, then suddenly stretched out his right hand. This action startled everyone. Even Dong Huangli was a bit surprised. Could it be that snap? Snap of fingers. This was Yi family's traditional way of showing off, and it would never get tired of it. Divine Book 102 Exterminate. Along with Yi Yan's snap of fingers, the tens of thousands of poisonous moths instantly turned into dust, and even Great Poisonous Moth Emperor let out a sound, seemingly a bit injured. He is actually fine, Yi Yan said gravely. Of course. Just a moment ago, Dong Huangli protected Great Emperor Venomous Moth. This brat. You actually want to kill my pet, I have to teach you a good lesson. Yi Yan seemed to be able to feel his big sister's anger, but there is nothing he can do about it. There are so many of them and all of their energy attacks were devoured by you. Just now I threw out the flute. I'll let you continue acting cool. If he had a flute in his hand, he would be able to achieve twice the results with half the effort. The Moth Emperor, who had suffered a minor injury, seemed to be enraged. It opened its mouth again. Yi Yan was shocked. Could it be that it could spit out endless bubbles? You must be lying. He was right. The venomous Moth Emperor spat out countless moths. No matter how many you come, I just need to snap my fingers. Yi Yan said solemnly. He didn't feel good about it. Dong Huangli said gravely, finger snap? You just fought one, and your breathing is already unstable. If you fight a few more, I'm afraid you'll run out of breath. On the other hand, my venomous Moth Emperor can spit out limitlessly. You will die of exhaustion. How despicable. Yi Yan really wanted to complain to Mom and Dad. Big Sister is simply a scoundrel. Who in the world fights like this? Only the weak would call others despicable. Dong Huangli said faintly. It has been so many years. Why hasn't little brother comprehended this logic yet? There is nothing wrong with what his daughter said. The winner is the king, and the loser is the bandit. This is a dead logic. Dead people can only complain. Yi Yan laughed lowly. Seeing that her little brother revealed out such a smile, Dong Huangli knew that her little brother is going to use his ultimate move. Using the venomous Moth Emperor to force out her little brother's ultimate move is rather worth it. It can be counted as part of my plan. If Yi Yan had a trump card in his hands, Yi Yan would have used it right now. Right now, the air seemed to be trembling. An unparalleled aura was being emitted out from Yi Yan's body. This aura had clearly reached the Dozun realm. Cheating? This thought emerged in Dong Huangli's mind. It must be that her little brother is cheating. However, very quickly, she dispelled that thought. This isn't cheating. This isn't him using martial techniques to increase his strength. However, it seems like both of them are cheating. Yener, this child isn't Ali's opponent. Yihua said faintly. He had already determined that Ali was the winner of this battle. Brother-in-law, the battle hasn't even ended yet. How can you come to such a conclusion? Qing Yutong felt that her nephew still had a chance. Isn't it too early to say that? Yihua lit up another stick of cigarette. Ali hasn't even gotten serious yet, and he has already used poison to force out Yener's trump card. Now that the trump card is gone, what is the point of this battle? All of Yihua's subordinates nodded their heads. The person who takes the initiative to use his ultimate move would usually lose. This was an unchanging law, the law of trump cards. Although Qingyu was worried, when she heard Yihua saying that her son was going to lose, she immediately became unconvinced. Yener, you can do it. You can promise your big sister. The Empress suddenly became happy. For Ali to be able to receive such a high evaluation from Yihua. As a mother, I feel very honored. Just what am I thinking? How am I honored? I'm going to be angered to death. Yi Yan, who used his ultimate move, shocked everyone once again, especially the host. My God. My God. Could this be the legendary move? Using Breaking Dawn as the foundation and leveling up Moon-slashing sword? Today has really made me too excited. Seeing the various martial techniques of Broken Meridian Sect and Shin Academy, and being used by such a young person, I can only say that they are too strong. At this moment, Lin Qing looked at Yi Yan, and his expression wasn't very good. Seeing Yi Yan using Breaking Dawn, Lin Qing had already suffered a huge blow. However, right now, it was still Moon-slashing sword that was above Breaking Dawn. Comparing it like this, I am really not Yi Yan's opponent. Yi Yan using that kind of method to defeat me is already giving me face. This is the difference, not just a little bit, but a huge gap. When God Yi, who was watching the battle, saw Yi Yan's move, the corner of his mouth twitched. When Lu Er was fighting with me, she didn't use this move at all. If I say that Lu Er didn't learn it, God Yi will never believe it. Could it be that Lu Er is also throwing the match for me? Making me feel bad even after winning? Tricks. This is definitely a trick that Big Brother taught Lu Er. Lu Er knows that she isn't Yi Yan's opponent, yet she still holds back and admits defeat, giving others a feeling of not feeling good after winning. My God. Lu Er has been led astray by Big Brother. At this moment, Yi Lu revealed a sly smile. Big Brother, you are stronger than Lu Er. Chapter 1308. But even if I lose, I'll let Big Brother know that I haven't used my full strength yet. Maybe I can still win. Are you feeling anxious in your heart? Big Brother Yan Er is still the smartest. This trick is indeed a bit deep, but from the looks of it now, Big Brother's situation isn't very optimistic. Big Sister hadn't even used her full strength, but Big Brother had already taken out his trump card. She was a little worried. After all, Big Brother was planning to get first place, so that he could take credit in front of Mom and Dad. Boom. A wave of air immediately exploded, and the white wind around Yi Yan quickly dissipated. Yi Yan's body was finally revealed before everyone's eyes. At this moment, Yi Yan had completely changed his clothes. Yi Yan was wearing a set of pure white gown, and the gown was incomparably straight. Coupled with Yi Yan's appearance, Yi Yan was simply too handsome. Even Dong Huangli couldn't help but take a few more glances at Yi Yan. This fellow is truly handsome enough. This act of acting is pretty good. A white longsword appeared in Yi Yan's right hand, emitting a cold chill. Hiding in the wind and changing clothes, this isn't a bad idea. Dong Huangli said lightly, and there was even a smile on her face. Originally, the atmosphere was very serious, but after hearing what Dong Huangli said, quite a few people covered their mouths and laughed lightly. The other party was obviously transforming. And yet, you actually said that you were hiding in the wind and changing your clothes? This is truly unacceptable. Yi Hua was amused by his daughter. Little Ali is truly not bad. Don't be so cheeky. Can you be more serious? Yi Yan couldn't help but say, Sister, you are too careless. I, your brother, am also a decent person. How could I change my clothes in front of so many people? Looking at Yi Yan's current state, Dong Huangli actually recalled Great Emperor Venomous Moth back into her storage ring. Are you serious? Yi Yan asked indifferently. No, you are thinking too much. Dong Huangli said lightly. Looking at Big Sister's expression, Yi Yan was a bit angry. Big Sister is actually not serious. Could it be that she thinks that I am still too weak? Then I'll let you take a good look. Yi Yan instantly disappeared from where he was. His speed was several times faster than before, and it was impossible to catch him. Sister, be careful. Yi Yan suddenly appeared above Dong Huangli's forehead, and the long sword in his hand pierced straight towards Dong Huangli's forehead. This caused Dong Huang Baiji to close her eyes. She was completely unable to watch on anymore. Qingye wished that she could grab hold of her son and smack his butt. He is too reckless. Even Yi Hua was a bit worried. This brat, does he want to get beaten up by me? The one who should be careful is Yu Yan. Yi Yan's expression changed greatly, because that voice actually sounded out from behind him, and the big sister in front of him was actually an afterimage that was left behind because her speed was too fast. How is this possible? I had used Beheading Moon. Under this kind of state, if Big Sister didn't use her true ability, she would definitely not be able to keep up with my speed, and then I would be able to defeat Big Sister. But why? Big Sister's speed is actually so fast. Why? Could it be that my sister is cheating again? I used my true strength, shameless. I promised that I wouldn't use it. Feeling the back of his head being flicked by his sister, Yi Yan hurriedly distanced himself from her, gnashing his teeth in anger. You. What kind of trick did you use this time? Yi Yan couldn't help but ask. He must have used something. Otherwise it would be cheating. Dong Huangli took out a bottle, opened the cap of the bottle, then took out a pill and popped it into her mouth. Dong Huangli's expression was still that comfortable. You. Drink pills. Yi Yan was dumbfounded. How could it be played like this? This was simply infuriating. That's right, I concoct medicine. Why can't I drink pills? The way you put it is so strange. Dong Huangli kept the bottle, then took out another bottle and started drinking pills again. Yi Yan looked at his big sister drinking pills, and he didn't really want to fight anymore. This is simply the way a hooligan fights. I can't afford to offend her. What kind of medicine are you drinking again? How can you be like this? Yi Yan shouted out towards Dong Huangli. Why didn't I notice that Big Sister is such a hooligan in the past? The speed at which Dong Huangli was drinking pills was simply infuriating. It was as if she was eating candy, and she was even chewing the pill in her mouth. It was exactly the same as eating bubble gum. Looking at this scene, Yi Yan felt his scalp turning cold. You are almost done. Yi Yan couldn't help but say once again. I don't want to fight anymore. I sincerely hope that my opponent is God Yi. Big Sister is truly not someone that I can afford to offend. Dong Huangli's mouth was extremely swollen, seemingly like she was still chewing the pill. Everyone was confused. What is she doing? This doesn't seem to be as simple as drinking pills. Right now, Qingsu was also very confused. What is Little Honor doing? To be able to drink pills to this extent? I have never heard of such a thing happening before. Dong Huangli could be seen suddenly taking a deep breath, and a bubble actually came out from her mouth. Furthermore, the bubble was a multicolored kind of bubble. When Yi Yan saw the bubble, he subconsciously tightened his grip on the sword that he was holding onto, appearing to be very vigilant. This is definitely not something that my big sister is playing around with. The bubble was still continuously becoming bigger and bigger. Suddenly, the bubble came out from Dong Huangli's mouth and floated in the air in a very strange manner. What surprised everyone was that Dong Huangli actually grabbed onto the bubble that Dong Huangli spat out, and started rubbing the bubble with her hand. Everyone was confused. Just what is she doing? Gradually, the bubble that was on Dong Huangli's hand took the shape of a human. This caused everyone to reveal out an astonished gaze. Could this be? The human-shaped bubble is becoming more and more similar to a person. Right now Yi Yan was very restless. Could it be that Big Sister is? I'm so tired, but I finally managed to do it. Dong Huangli let out a heavy breath, then lightly tapped onto the human-shaped bubble's forehead. The human-shaped bubble took on a new look, and it actually turned into a person that looked exactly the same as Dong Huangli. It even knows how to smile. Yi Yan felt that this Big Sister bubble still has her own thoughts. At this moment, Qingsu stood up once again, then said spiritedly, could this be the legendary Overlord-level human-shaped doll? This is simply too ferocious. Just how did Little Honorable manage to do it? Even I am unable to do it. Human-shaped doll? Yihua asked curiously. Yihua's subordinates were also very curious. During these few years, they seemed to have heard Qingsu talk about it, but they didn't know much about it. Something that Qingsu was unable to do, Little Honorable actually managed to do it. Looking at Qingsu's astonished look, Little Honorable is definitely extraordinary. Your Honor, I believe that you have also seen it just now. Little Honorable swallowed a lot of medicinal pellets and chewed them in his mouth. The medicinal pellet's saliva is the foundation of Little Honorable's humanoid form. When all sorts of medicinal pellets are combined together, this human-shaped doll possesses all of the characteristics of medicinal pellets. This human-shaped doll can be said to be the most ferocious doll in the world. The main point is these medicinal pellets. I wonder where Little Honorable managed to find these medicinal pellets from. I really wish to exchange some insights with little Honorable. Qingsu was already unable to hold back the excitement in his heart. Looking at Dong Huangli, Qingsu seemed as if he was looking at a mountain of gold. Yihua looked at his daughter and sighed in his heart. My daughter has been doing much better than what I imagined. Chapter 1309. Everyone, broken meridian sex. Dong Huangli actually created a person with her hands. This is too mystical. I don't know what use this person has, but from the looks of it, it seems to be very formidable. Also, I wonder what kind of performance Yi Yan will have. I am really looking forward to it. Yi Yan scolded in his heart. Formidable, my ass, watch me. If I Yi Yan don't show off my might, do you all think that I Yi Yan am a Hello KT? Flowing light 10 chain slash. Yi Yan doesn't believe that a mere doll can be stronger than me, Yi Yan. If that is the case, what am I, Yi Yan, going to follow you, big sister? 10 rays of white light immediately blossomed, and the bubble version of big sister was immediately hit. 10 white marks appeared on her body, and it was clear that she was hit. Chi. The doll could be seen immediately splitting into several pieces, as if it was disintegrating. This caused everyone to be a bit surprised. The bubble version that I created for so long was actually insta-killed just like that. This is too disappointing. After succeeding in his attack, Yi Yan was a bit excited as he shouted out towards his big sister. What is this thing? It seems like it is only SO. It was insta-killed. Are you sure? Dong Huangli said indifferently. Yi Yan's expression became grave. Big sister's words. Just when everyone thought that the doll was going to be destroyed, the doll that was disintegrating actually fused together once again. And furthermore, the doll even laughed. Are you surprised? Are you surprised? Are you excited? The corner of Yi Yan's mouth twitched. This is a bit demonic. Super speed fusion regeneration. Qingsu cried out in surprise again. Yihua said faintly, Qingsu, don't make a fuss about nothing. Your Honor, subordinate is truly unable to calm down from the excitement in my heart. Your Honor is simply too formidable. I have to go and pay respects to Your Honor as my teacher. Qingsu wasn't joking. The things that Dong Huangli used in such a short period of time had already caused Qingsu to be extremely shocked, and I really want to ask Dong Huangli to enlighten me. Hearing what Qingsu said, Dong Huangbaiji felt very happy. Dong Huangli did not disappoint me, she truly gave me face. Qingya suddenly hoped that my son would be able to win. Seems like women have a competitive heart as well, they are all the same. At this moment, Yi Yan couldn't take it anymore and shouted out. Why are you using such a gaudy thing, White Emperor sword? The long sword in Yi Yan's hand suddenly disappeared, turning into a cloud-like substance, floating around Yi Yan's body. Dong Huangli looked towards the puppet and said in a low voice, just play around with him, it's fine as long as you don't get hurt. Such a handsome little brother, of course I won't hurt him. The puppet gave a strange smile. Even though it looked like a real person, when it smiled, it gave off a horrifying feeling. After all, it was not a real person. Dong Huangli laughed lightly, then took a few steps back. Meanwhile, the puppet was actually walking forward while walking like a cat. Is Dong Huangli's appearance that bad? Not bad. She is simply so beautiful that she could explode. Furthermore, when she walks out with such sexy steps, my eyes are about to pop out from looking at her. I don't believe it. Yi Yan shouted in a low voice. Insignificant tricks can't cripple you. The white mist around Yi Yan seemed to have a life of its own as it surged towards the puppet. In an instant, it wrapped around the puppet and began to spin violently. Yi Yan sneaked a peek at his sister and realized that she was expressionless. She must be pretending. She must be panicking. This move isn't bad. Dong Huangli said lightly. Of course, the White Emperor sword can transform into hundreds of millions of blades, attacking in all directions, not leaving any gaps. Yi Yan said in a low voice. This move could be considered the top martial technique of Shen Academy. When God Yi saw his brother using that move, he thought to himself that his sister definitely knew how to use it as well. She did not even use it when fighting him. Was it him or his sister who was going easy on him? God Yi was starting to have doubts. Dong Huangli laughed. That's why I used a puppet. When Yi Yan heard this, he immediately felt that something was wrong. It was as if every step he took was being controlled by his sister. Under Yi Yan's control, the White Emperor sword returned to his side and continued to float. However, the puppet had already disappeared. In Yi Yan's words, it had already turned into dust. Not even a speck of flesh remained. Seeing such a situation, Yi Yan smiled and said, "Nothing more than this. What other moves do you have? Bring them out." "That's all? I'm afraid you're getting carried away." Yi Yan suddenly realized that something seemed to be condensing in the air, and his eyes instantly became astonished. This thing had already become like this. Could it still be fused? This is already so perverted that it no longer has any friends. In the blink of an eye, the puppet was formed once again. Everyone was incomparably shocked in their hearts. Could it be that this thing can't be killed? It can revive infinitely? Little big brother, this move of yours is making me feel so comfortable. The puppet twisted its neck, then swayed left and right. Yi Yan didn't even want to speak anymore. "If you have the ability, let me take out my flute and blow you to death. This time, it's my turn to attack." "Little big brother, you have to be a bit more serious." The puppet laughed lightly. Yi Yan looked at this monster vigilantly. "Since this thing can even be healed by dust, it seems like I can only use other methods." The puppet could be seen taking a deep breath. Suddenly, a thought emerged in everyone's mind. Could it be that this puppet is going to spit out bubbles again? It hasn't even finished eating yet, and it's already spitting out bubbles. Ooh, the puppet could be seen spitting out miniature versions of Ali from its mouth. The miniature versions of Ali looked exactly the same as when they were young. However, only the upper body of Ali was left, while the lower body of Ali was formed by mist. There were a total of 7 of them, and even their colors were different from each other. Yi Yan was clearly not very calm. Why did Big Sister make these things? It's so weird. Gather up, don't move around randomly." The puppet shouted out towards the 7 children. The 7 little fellows immediately stood in a row and slightly raised their heads. That look of theirs was rather confused. However, Yi Yan didn't think that way. From the looks of it, Big Sister already had this talent when she was young. This is too bad. Attention! Look to the right. Look to the front. At ease. After saying a few words, at ease. Yi Yan. These are probably all children, right? Their movements are actually so orderly and uniform. Is there a need to be so funny? Do you see the little big brother behind you? Go and hug him tightly, and you will be able to eat sweets. The puppet said with a slight smile, as if it was lying to little children. Hearing that there will be sweets to eat, these little fellows seem to be very excited. "Don't look down on these fellows," Dong Huangli reminded. "If you have the ability, fight me one-on-one." "One-on-one? If you can't even defeat the puppet that I made, how can you even talk about one-on-one?" Dong Huangli said faintly. Dong Huangli was very satisfied. Originally, Dong Huangli didn't plan to use these trump cards, but knowing that her father and mother were present at the scene, she felt that it was important for her to display these trump cards and show off the hard work that she had put in for so many years. Therefore, what Dong Huangli was using right now were all the trump cards that she had hidden for so many years. Especially this humanoid doll. This humanoid doll was Dong Huangli's most outstanding creation. Sometimes, even Dong Huangli herself wouldn't be able to guess how the humanoid doll would attack. Chapter 13:10. Dong Huangli continued. Your White Emperor sword will not be able to cause any harm to it. If these 7 little fellows self-destruct beside you, you will definitely be injured, and the gas that comes out from the explosion will even make you fall asleep. This is just one of the 7 little fellows' functions. The other 6 have different functions. When all of them self-destruct, the fused poisonous gas will have a different effect. Later on, you will personally experience what despair is. Dong Huangli's words were all according to what Yi Hua said. After all, what he heard the most when he was young was, "Let the enemy experience what despair is." Right now, Dong Huangli was just responding to her father's call, causing her little brother to feel despair. Yi Yan looked at the 7 big sisters who were holding hands and looking at him with those strange gazes. and he didn't feel good. Big sister, you changed, you became too ferocious. At the very least, we relied on each other when we were young, we ate from the same bowl, and we even slept together. You even hugged Yan and sang songs to coax me to sleep. Do you still remember the days when we went to KFC to beg? Big sister, you were in charge of doing the dishes, and little brother, I, was in charge of crying. Big sister, did you forget the days when we stole chickens in Voidless Realm? Big sister, did you forget the days when we destroyed everything? And now, to actually use such a ferocious method to deal with little brother, big sister, does your conscience not hurt? Back then, you even said that you will properly protect your little brother for the rest of your life. Look at me now. I can't even trust a woman's words, even if it's a child who is only a few years old. Liar. Yi Yan suddenly stretched out his palm and shouted out, "Wait!" Dong Huangli went into a daze for a moment, then gave the puppet a look. This puppet really does have its own thoughts, causing my 7 little brothers to stop moving. What are you doing? You still have a big move? Dong Huangli asked curiously. In actuality, she was a bit nervous. This humanoid doll is already my trump card, and it is also my most powerful move. If even this move is broken, then I don't have anything else that I can use. Therefore, I naturally don't want my little brother to have any more trump cards. Although Yi Yan was thinking this way, Dong Huangli still had that look of what trump card do I have on me, causing Yi Yan to feel uncertain. I still have a few moves that I created myself, but if big sister still has any perverted moves, wouldn't I be slapped in the face? This cheating big sister, I am going to tell mom and dad, you are bullying little brother. Originally, I wanted to get first place and go to show off a bit. This is simply too infuriating. If only I didn't act cool just now and just left the show with me. What should I do now? I have to brace myself and finish acting, but forget it, I'll look for an opportunity in the future. I have to properly study how to get rid of my sister's poison. When that time comes, it'll be time for revenge. But when I think about my sister's mystical flames, my head hurts a little. Why can't I inherit it perfectly? How did my sister manage to fuse 2 mystical flames? She is indeed a perverted level of a sister. Yi 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 Li Li. Yi Emperor Di Xiao and said. And Yi Yi, Emperor Ti Yi. My stomach feel. Yi Ching Yi Yi Tu. Yi Hua, everyone to say to. Yi, everyone, Yi, Yi. Yi, seeing that his son was beaten away by his daughter, Yi Hua smiled helplessly. He didn't blame Yi Yan. After all, Ali's strength was indeed very strong, and she wasn't someone that Yi Yan could contend against. Emperor also felt. Yi Imam. Yi. All of Yi Ye's subordinates revealed a smile. Our little honor is still the same as when we were young, very cute. At this moment, Yi Yan came to his little sister's side. Yi Lu sighed lightly and patted on her big brother's shoulder. Brother, why did you admit defeat? Don't you still have a lot of ultimate moves? Yi Yan sighed helplessly. Mom and Dad are here. Ah! Yi Lu cried out in surprise. She immediately felt her face heating up. Does that mean that Mom and Dad saw the fight between me and Big Brother just now? If I had known earlier, I would have won even if I had to risk my life. Yi Yan also discovered his father during the fight, because his father was currently smoking. Yi Yan did not know that his father smoked a lot. And in this world, only his father who smoked would be able to draw out a unique aura from his father's cigarette. After being shocked, Yi Lu became even more confused. Brother, since Mom and Dad are watching us, why did you admit defeat? Yi Lu asked. Yi Yan stroked his little sister's hair and said faintly, I thought about it, no matter what, you are big sister, there is no need to do that. Oh brother. Yi Lu called out lightly. Other people only saw the side of Big Brother that was laughing and joking, but only I saw how hard my big brother worked when he was training. Yi Yan smiled bitterly. It's just that I disappointed Mom. Both of us admitted defeat. That's right, if I had known earlier, I would have been a bit more serious. Yi Yan didn't say anything. He looked at his big sister who was in the sky and revealed a smile. When Dong Huangli who was in the sky saw her little brother's smile, she glared at him. This brat, to actually go easy on me, Be careful that big sister doesn't spank you like how I used to spank you when you were young. The host came back to his senses from his shock and said excitedly, Unbelievable! Unbelievable! The two trump cards of Shin Academy actually admitted defeat. Is this a shady deal, or is Shin Academy really unable to hold on any longer? Next, it actually turned into a civil war within Meridian Break sect. This is so boring. Everyone immediately became speechless. This host is a bit interesting. To even be able to say such a thing, aren't you afraid of offending Shin Academy? However, there is a possibility of shady deal. With Shin Academy's trump cards, it shouldn't be to the point where they would admit defeat, right? Furthermore, everyone else was fighting to the death, but look at them, there aren't any injuries on their bodies. Although they were throwing ultimate moves at each other, there weren't any actual injuries on their bodies. Dong Huangli returned to Godye's side, then smiled towards Godye. Big sister, congratulations. Godye congratulated his big sister in advance. This time, the first place was already in his hands. After all, by defeating Yi Yan, he would be the first place, because the biggest threat was Yi Yan. Big sister, congratulations. Lu Xian, who was beside Godye, also called out softly. Seems like she has already admitted her identity. This is a good thing. Hearing that Lu Xian, had changed her words, Godye revealed a smile, then lightly held onto Lu Xian's small hand. Seeing how her little brother and Lu Xian, were acting, Dong Huangli felt very happy in her heart. After all, with her little brother's personality, it is truly difficult for him to find a girlfriend. If not for this mysterious mission, how could her little brother possibly find a girlfriend? Dong Huangli said softly, What's there to congratulate? Yi Yan went easy on me. It can't be. Godye said doubtfully. Lu Xian, who was beside Yi Yan, was a bit surprised. Yi Yan went easy on me? Just now it seems like there was no other way. Chapter 13:11. It could only be said that Yi Yan's acting skills had improved a lot. After all, in the Yi family, it would be hard to survive without some acting skills. This fellow has become a lot more shrewd. Dong Huangli said with a light smile on her face. Her little brother has become so powerful. And Dong Huangli was naturally happy for her little brother. Godye did not say anything after listening. That's right, I forgot to tell you, Daddy and Mommy are here, and they are currently looking at us. Dong Huangli reminded. This caused Godye to go into a daze. And Godye couldn't help but exclaim out loudly, What? Daddy and Mommy are here. Looking at her younger brother who had lost control of himself, Dong Huangli said snappily, Don't see how your mom will teach you a lesson when you are dressed like this. And yet, you are still showing off your muscles over there. Godye's cold face instantly turned red. If he knew that his parents would come today, he would not have dressed like that and posed like that. It's all because of you. Xian'er likes muscular men. It was rare for Godye to show an innocent expression. When did I ever like muscular men? Don't spout nonsense. Lu Xian'er was also extremely nervous at that moment. Godye's parents were watching. That just now was so embarrassing. Sis, why didn't you say so earlier? You must have felt it a long time ago, right? Godye knew that he had been tricked by his sister again. Dong Huangli spread out her hands. I also just found out about it. Yenner, that fellow seems to have found out about it as well. Why are Mom and Dad here? Godye held his forehead. It was too sudden and he could not accept it. His dad would definitely scold him. Dong Huangli laughed coquettishly. Mommy definitely dragged Daddy to come here. That's why Daddy came here. This is just nice. Let Xian'er gradually get to know Daddy and Mommy. After you pass Daddy and Mommy's test, Xian'er, you will be a member of Yi family. After hearing what Dong Huangli said, Lu Xian'er wished that she could dig a hole into the ground. Isn't this too fast? We have just confirmed our relationship, and we are already going to meet our family. Wasn't it supposed to be during the discussion of marriage? Don't worry, our family members are all good people. Dong Huangli said earnestly. Good person. Yi Hua and the entire team doesn't seem to be a good person at all. Right now, Yi Hua released the shackles that were placed on Qinya and Donghuang Baiji, because the children's match was more or less over. Godye was no match for Ali. Ali took first place this time. Yihua. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji shouted out towards Yihua. Yihua pretended that he didn't see anything and continued to smoke his cigarette while saying faintly, "Pay attention to your image." Qingye and Donghuang Baiji really didn't want to pay attention to their image, and were prepared to have a big fight with Yihua. They wanted to let Yihua know that women still have a lot of formidable aspects. However, due to the presence of so many people, including his subordinates and children, he decided to put aside this debt for now and settle it properly in the future. However, Qingye and Donghuang Baiji couldn't wait to see their children anymore. It has already been 12 years. I really want to hug my children tightly into my embrace and tell them how much Mummy misses them. But your bad daddy doesn't allow Mummy to come and see them. I don't even allow Mummy to come and see them. Your Honor. Wei Chang shouted out lightly from behind Yihua. Wei Chang asked with a low voice. Deity institutions Taiha has already died, but meridian-breaking sex Changhen did not die. Yihua naturally knew that this was also one of the children's missions. It was also to train the children to be cold-blooded when it was time for them to be cold-blooded. However, right now Yihua was a bit hesitant. According to Absolute Heaven's intelligence, everlasting hatred seemed to dote on Ali and Gadyi in every possible way. The reason why Ali had so many strange medicinal herbs was all because of everlasting hatred. Although it was for the sake of nurturing the two children, if he did not dote on them, why would he spend so much on them? Furthermore, the children also knew about their mission. If Yihua were to force them to carry out the mission, Yihua thought to himself, Ali and Gadyi wouldn't disobey my orders. However, after the mission is completed, will they be happy? On the other hand, as a father, I will have one less enemy. Will I be happy? I don't seem to be happy at all. All these years, Yihua didn't go and carry out any revenge operations, because he felt that revenge doesn't seem to be able to make him happy. In fact, he even started a discussion about whether or not he should continue with his revenge operations. In the end, the conclusion that he came up with was that he should continue with his revenge operations, but he would listen to the will of the heavens, and he wouldn't doubt whether or not he should continue with his revenge operations. Because if he were to continue with his revenge operations, it would truly be very boring. Although he would be able to admire those expressions of fear, he felt that it was meaningless. Perhaps one day someone else would walk in front of you, and then you would be out of luck. In actuality, Yihua didn't have the mood to carry out any revenge operations, because all these years, there was a knot in his heart, and that was that old fortune teller. Thus every day he desperately wanted to increase his own strength, protect his family, and protect the entire team. Everything seemed calm, but Yihua felt that this was the calm above the turbulent waves. However, the calm had been overturned, and the waves were coming. If he didn't take advantage of this opportunity to make preparations, then everything would be for naught. Not only was Yihua making preparations, the entire team didn't have time to relax and increase their own strength. After all, there was still a ticking time bomb beside them, Ren Yao. Who knows when this time bomb would explode, and no one knew what kind of effect it would spray out. Let's just hope that it turns out to be a dud. Forget it. Yihua said faintly. He decided not to make things difficult for the children. The revenge is mine. There is no need to place it on the children. Let's go. Yihua said faintly. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji thought that Yihua was going to go back, but right now, he hasn't even picked up the children. And you already said that you are going back? How can you not keep your words? Just by looking at their expressions, Yihua knew that they were already an old married couple. You two want to meet here? Yihua said faintly. So that's the case. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji snorted. At least you are sensible. Seems like these two first wives of mine are very arrogant. Look at Qing Yutang and Qian Yuqing. Both of them are very well behaved, unlike Qingye and Donghuang Baiji who are so arrogant. Yihua's temper is also much better. If not, he would have long hung them up and beaten them up. Yihua brought along everyone and took the lead. Right at this moment, the match between Donghuang Li and Gadyi began. Gadyi admitted defeat. Donghuang Li became the champion, and everyone booed at her. However, this didn't affect Donghuang Li's mood, because she was about to see her father and mother, and she was about to return home. I really want to return home. After the match ended, the 4 children disappeared. As for where they went, it was naturally to meet up with each other first. Behind a big rock in Maple Forest Valley, the 4 little fellows were looking at each other, and all of them had the same expression on their faces. How is this a meeting between brothers? This is simply a meeting between enemies who have been enemies for hundreds of years, and they really want to stab each other with a knife. Suddenly, Dong Huangli opened up her arms. Yen'er, come into big sister's embrace. Chapter 13:12. Yi Yan immediately crossed his arms. Sister, don't be like this. We're all adults. Please give each other some space, okay? Good my ass. Get over here. Dong Huangli placed both of her hands on her waist. It seemed like if you don't give her big sister a hug right now, you will be done for. Sis, it's really awkward to hug now. Dong Huangli immediately walked up and hugged onto Yi Yan, then said tenderly, my Yen'er is taller than big sister. Sister. Yi Yan's body trembled slightly. He remembered the last hug. At that time, everyone was still young, and it was 12 years ago. Time passed in the blink of an eye. Yi Yan had imagined this day countless times. Io. Sis. Yi Yan held onto his waist and shouted out in pain, thinking to himself, why is it that even big sister is unable to escape from the common weakness of all women? Does this pinch on my waist not hurt at all? After growing up, your guts have gotten bigger, huh? Just now, you actually dared to tease big sister. Dong Huangli pinched onto Yi Yan's ear, and said with a stern look on her face, Sis, how would I dare to tease you? I can't beat him. Humph, you still can't beat him? Do you believe I won't kick you? Big sister, please spare my life. Dong Huangli laughed tenderly, then let go of Yi Yan and said tenderly, let big sister take a good look at you, you sure are handsome. Have you found a girlfriend yet? I heard that you became a scumbag. What girlfriend? I plan to be single for the rest of my life. Yi Yan smiled. He didn't want to find a wife now. He would wait until he broke his father's record before looking for a wife. That won't do for you. God Yi has already found a girlfriend. I really couldn't tell that God Yi would take the initiative to confess. Did you poison him, sis? Dong Huangli hammered onto Yi Yan's head, while Yi Yan had a look of I understand on his face. God Yi and Yi Lu were also very affectionate. Lu, brother. The brother and sister hugged each other tightly. At this moment, the 2 ice cubes seemed to have temporarily melted, and both of them revealed a happy smile. God Yi looked at his sister, and brushed aside her hair. I haven't seen you for more than a decade. Lu'er is getting more and more beautiful. Big brother, you're also much more handsome. You even have a girlfriend. Yi Lu said with a naughty smile. She had really changed her previous nickname of being cold. God Yi looked a little embarrassed. Lu'er, do you have a boyfriend? Not yet. Why don't you introduce them to your sister? And then it is better for you to look for it yourself. God Yi chuckled and suddenly thought of something. He pinched Yi Lu's little face. Did you go easy on me just now? I didn't go easy on you. Yi Lu said lightly while standing on the tip of his toes. Although that was what he said, that expression of his was clearly saying that he had gone easy on Yi Lu. So what? Are you angry? God Yi shook his head helplessly and waved at Lu Xian, who was not far away. Xianer, come here. Let me introduce you. Lu Xianer, who was standing at the side, saw that they were really siblings. This was simply unthinkable. Meridian breaking sex trump card, coupled with Shun Institution's trump card. This was too unbelievable. What kind of people were God Yi's parents? Lu Xianer didn't dare to imagine. Lu'er, this is Lu Xian. She'll be your sister-in-law from now on. God Yi pulled the shy Lu Xianer in front of him and smiled. Greetings, sister-in-law. Yi Lu called out with a smile. A woman that even her brother acknowledged couldn't be any worse. Lu Xianer blushed. Hello, Lu'er. Sister-in-law, there's no need to be restrained. We're a family from now on. Lu Xian, felt that she had only just started dating God Yi. How did they suddenly become a family? At this moment, Dong Huangli and Yi Yan walked over. Big sister. Yi Lu walked forward, then threw herself into Dong Huangli's embrace and called out intimately, as expected of sisters. Lu, you're truly becoming more and more beautiful. Even big sister likes you. Dong Huangli couldn't help but tease, causing Yi Lu to be unhappy. Only at this place could Yi Lu express herself. God Yi pulled Lu Xian'er in front of Yi Yan and called out, "Brother, long time no see." This man's way of greeting is really not direct. The main thing is that when they were young, Yi Yan and God Yi didn't interact much. Yi Yan nodded, then looked at Lu Xian'er and asked, "This is sister-in-law, right?" "That's right, brother." Xian'er greet her. "Brother." Lu Xian'er called out shyly. Yi Yan patted on God Yi's shoulder. "All right, you're asking about the first person who found his other half. Daddy and Mommy should be very happy. However, I'm also curious, with your personality, why did you suddenly want to find a girlfriend?" "Daddy requested it." God Yi subconsciously said. "Ah, Daddy had such a request? Why didn't I know about it?" "Big sister, do you know about it?" "I don't know." Dong Huangli shook her head. At this moment, God Yi was a bit stupefied. "I feel like I've been tricked again, so Daddy didn't have such a request at all. And yet Big sister, you're really... Do you have to trick your little brother like this?" Just like what Dong Huangli said, if little brother isn't used to trick others, then what's the point of having a little brother? What Dong Huangli said made sense. In any case, it was the first time Yi Yan and Yi Lu met Lu Xian'er. Meeting gifts were definitely not lacking. Yi Yan and Yi Lu both gave Lu Xian'er meeting gifts. Those gifts were all small gifts, and those small gifts were given by Daddy in the past. In the eyes of the children, those were small gifts. However, in Lu Xian'er's eyes, those were all things that she couldn't see, and yet, they were actually able to casually take them out. Furthermore, their expressions seemed to be saying that they were too embarrassed to take out those things. Lu Xian'er felt that God Yi's parents are very mysterious. They can't be some big shots from some place, right? Right at that moment, a figure suddenly appeared around the children, giving Lu Xian'er a fright. Subordinate pays respect to little honor. Uncle Wei. Uncle Wei. The relationship between Dong Huangli and Wei Chong was very deep, followed by Yi Yan. The person who came was naturally Wei Chong. As a subordinate, he had to act like a subordinate. However, when he looked at Ali and Yan, Wei Chong was also extremely happy in his heart. They have grown up. I remember that when Ali first came to the bar, she was still so young, and her voice was still childish, but now she has already become a big girl. Dong Huangli and Yi Yan hugged onto Wei Chong tightly, while Wei Chong lightly hugged onto Yi Yan, and revealed a happy smile on the corner of his mouth. God Yi and Yi Lu respectfully shouted out from the side, "Uncle Wei." Although Wei Chong was Yi Hua's subordinate, the children still respected Wei Chong a lot. To be more precise, they respected the subordinates of every single father. Lu Xian'er couldn't remain calm anymore. This man who came out of nowhere actually called God Yi and the others little honor. Just what is going on? Why do I feel like I'm going to be sold? Lu Xian'er was a bit panicky in her heart. She could only lean tightly onto God Yi's side. Only then would she feel a bit of security. Chapter 13:13. Don't be afraid. This is Uncle Wei. God Yi comforted her softly. After all, Lu Xian'er would feel uncomfortable from the aura emitted by Uncle Wei. Lu Xian'er forced herself to calm down, but she still stayed close to God Yi. "Little honor, please follow subordinate down. His honor and madam are already waiting for you," Wei Chong said with a smile while looking at the children. Presumably, his honor and madam should be very anxious right now, right? Upon hearing that they were going to be able to see their parents soon, the four children were very excited, but also a bit nervous. "I haven't seen them for a long time. I wonder if my father and mother have gotten old, and I wonder if my father has found a new wife. His mother would definitely be furious and might even run away from home. Without us to cover for him, my father would have no choice but to ask Uncle Wei and the others to act. And Uncle Wei, let's go." Dong Huangli was already impatient. Wei Chong nodded, and everyone immediately disappeared. When the scene appeared again, both Dong Huangli and Yi Yan went into a daze for a moment, because they were currently inside. Leisure bar. To Dong Huangli, that bar counter was too familiar. That bar counter was filled with countless memories. His honor and madam are inside the bedroom, Wei Chang said with a slight smile. Towards the place that his honor chose to meet with Yi Hua, Wei Chang sighed with emotion. In actuality, the one who misses little his honor the most is his honor. It's just that his honor didn't show it. Dong Huangli took the lead and rushed upstairs. Gadi also carried Lu Xian'er, who had a confused look on her face, upstairs. Although I was tricked by my big sister, since I have already found Lu Xian'er, then let's just let it be. In the future, I won't have to go through the trouble of looking for Lu Xian'er anymore. After all, Lu Xian'er is pretty good. Right now, Dong Huangli was standing at the doorway of the bedroom, and she was feeling very nervous. She was currently thinking about what she should say to Dong Huangli. Sister, what are you waiting for? Let's go in. Yi Yan urged. Wait, let big sister calm down. Dong Huangli said nervously. It's dad and mom, not someone else. What are you waiting for? Yi Yan pushed the door open. 3 people appeared in the room. The children standing outside the door looked at the 3 figures. They originally wanted to pretend to be relaxed, but now they couldn't do it. Dong Huangli and Yi Lu immediately started crying. After all, they were girls, and it was inevitable for them to be a bit emotional. Yi Yan's and Gadia's eyes reddened. Boys needed some face. How could they be like girls, crying at the drop of a hat? At the very least, they had to hold on a little longer. Meanwhile, the ones inside the house were naturally Yi Hua, Qingya, and Dong Huangbaiji. Looking at the children, Yi Hua's expression was very tense. Yi Hua was most likely holding back his tears. He couldn't let the children see him as a joke, and he also couldn't be like Qingya and Dong Huangbaiji, whose faces were already filled with tears. Mom. Dong Huangli threw herself into Dong Huangbaiji's embrace. Ali, Mom misses you so much. Dong Huangbaiji hugged onto her daughter tightly, and the longing she had for her daughter immediately erupted. Mom. Yi Lu did the same. She ran into Qingya's arms and her tears instantly drenched Qingya's clothes. Lu, my daughter. Qingya rubbed her daughter's forehead as tears streamed down her face. Dong Huangli and Yi Lu's cries could be heard all over the bedroom, and Dong Huangli and Yi Lu's cries were simply howling loudly. Even Yi Hua felt that he was a bit too ruthless. After making the children leave for such a long time, it was only natural for Qingya and Dong Huangbaiji to be this angry. Yi Yan and Gadi, who were boys, were much more steady. They walked to their mother's side, and before they even said a single word, they were hugged by their mother, just like how they were when they were little. The children who were able to feel their mother's love were all very happy. Yi Yan and Gadi both cried, but very quickly, they wiped away their tears. I can't let others see me crying, especially when my father is right beside me. If my father sees me crying, how much face would I have? Yi Hua stood beside the window and lit up a stick of cigarette. It seems like only by doing this can my excited mood calm down. This is indeed very effective. After a long while, Yi Hua finally calmed down. Yi Hua extinguished the cigarette butt and looked at his 4 children. The children also looked at their father, and suddenly discovered that their father seemed to have aged a lot. This kind of aging wasn't referring to his appearance, rather, it was referring to his mentality. The children's feeling was right. After all these years, Yi Hua's mentality had indeed aged a lot. Daddy. The 4 children obediently shouted out, preparing to listen to Yi Hua's lecture. Yi Hua looked at the children, took a deep breath, then said in a low voice, Children, it has been hard on you all. Daddy. The 2 daughters immediately hugged onto their father tightly. Their father was like a mountain that they could rely on. This kind of feeling could only be felt now. Outside, the only person that they could rely on was themselves. Yi Hua lightly caressed onto his daughter's hair, and sighed with emotion in his heart. You all are good children. Daddy. Yi Hua patted onto Yi Yan and Gadia's shoulders. You all have performed well. Daddy is very happy today. Daddy, our final mission has yet to be completed. Yi Yan was obedient. In front of Yi Hua, Yi Yan would always be obedient, and didn't dare to be impudent. Yi Hua naturally knew what Yi Yan was talking about. Although Yi Yan and Yi Yan were serious, Yihua could feel that there was still a bit of conflict in their hearts. Yihua. Qinya called out lightly. Mom, this is our duty, Yi Yan said in a low voice. Yihua patted onto Yi Yan's shoulders. Forget it, don't do that mission anymore. During this period of time, properly accompany your mother. I miss you all a lot. Yihua looked at the children's expressions. When he said that he was going to cancel the mission, the children clearly let out a sigh of relief. Yihua didn't even know what to say. Should he be happy or disappointed? After living together for so many years, as long as it was a human, there would definitely be some feelings. The children were not like me. I am an undead. My feelings can be extinguished at any time. You all continue chatting. I will go down and drink a cup of wine, Yihua said lightly. As a mother, she definitely has a lot of things to say. Daddy, wait, I still have someone to introduce, Godyi said a bit embarrassedly. Yihua and his two wives immediately understood what Godyi meant and nodded their heads with a smile. Godyi was delighted. As long as Daddy nodded his head, it would be a success. Xian. Godyi opened the door of the room and shouted towards Lucien, who was outside. Lucien was very nervous, to the point where she felt that her legs weren't listening to her and couldn't even move. Godyi grabbed onto Lucien's wrist and pulled her into the bedroom. Daddy, Mommy, she is called Lucien. She is my girlfriend. Let me introduce her to you all. Lucien lowered her head the moment she entered the room. She didn't dare to raise her head, because she was afraid. Yihua and Donghuang Baiji had already met Lucien during the competition. Lucien wasn't bad, right? Looking at how she is right now, she should be considered as an obedient girl. Chapter 13-14. Raise your head, Yihua said softly. Donghuang Baiji rolled her eyes at Yihua. Don't scare others. Come, let Auntie take a look. Lucien finally raised her head. She was so nervous that she did not know what to say. You are really good looking. Shinner has good taste. Qinya laughed softly, then looked at her son, as if saying, look at your little brother, he has already solved his personal problem. As the big brother, when are you going to solve it? Yi Yan seemed to be able to sense his mother's intention, and immediately turned his face away. Can I be like Godyi and confess while wearing a camisole? That kind of scene is really unbearable. Only Godyi would dare to do that. Greet her. Godyi reminded softly. He felt that it was funny. In the past, Lucien was quite calm, but now, she actually became like this. It felt quite interesting. Following Godye's reminder, Lucien finally came back to her senses and subconsciously followed Godyi and shouted, Mom! Everyone was speechless. That word Mom shocked everyone. Even Godyi looked at Lucien dumbfoundedly. She said that she doesn't want to be my woman, but this is the first time they met, and she even called me Mom. I didn't expect that. Xianer actually likes me so much. Donghuang Baiji was stunned for a moment, then smiled happily. You have such a sweet mouth. Shinner, you are blessed. Lucien finally realized that she had said the wrong thing. Her face was about to bleed. She held onto Godye's hand tightly. Her meaning was very obvious. It's all your fault. Qinya then looked at Yi Yan as if saying, when are you going to find a girlfriend like this and make Mom happy? Yi Yan initially thought that when Godyi found a girlfriend, his parents would tease him a little. He did not expect that they would actually point the spearhead at him. Yihua took a few steps forward and stood in front of Lucien. Lucien immediately felt pressured. Godye's father doesn't feel like an ordinary person. I don't know what Godye's father is going to say to me. I don't feel like it's easy to get along with him. Take good care of Godyi in the future. Yihua said lightly as he took out a greeting gift. It was a hairpin that was emitting out a faint radiance. However, don't look down on this hairpin. What Yihua took out was definitely not an ordinary thing. Lucien was too embarrassed to accept it and dared to reject it. Godyi tightened his grip on Lucien's hand. Since Daddy had given it to her, she should accept it honestly. If she did not accept it, it would mean that she was not giving him face. That was not being polite. Lucien was still very smart. She instantly understood Godye's meaning, and accepted it with both hands. Thank you, uncle. I understand. And Yihua called out to his eldest son. Dad. Yi Yan was confused. Why did his dad call him at this time? It's good to start a family first. Then you can focus on your career in the future. A few black lines instantly appeared on Yi Yan's forehead. On the other hand, Qingya had a joyous look on her face. This fellow Yener, perhaps he doesn't listen to this mother, but whatever this father says he will do. Right now it's also good for Yi Yan to start a family first. I will also have one less thing to worry about. Or it's also good for me to hug a grandson. I know, Daddy. What else can Yi Yan say? It's all this Gadia's fault. If you don't find a girlfriend, would I die together with you? No. If I'm going to die, then let's die together. Daddy, big sister isn't young anymore. I feel that we should. Just when Yi Yan finished speaking, Dong Huangli and Yi Lu cast a gaze of death at Yi Yan. Brett, you are planning to die together with us, right? You don't have to worry about your big sister and your little sister's matters. Just focus on your own matters. Yihua said faintly, then continued. If the two of you have a boy that you like, then bring him home and let Daddy and Mommy take a look at him. Dong Huangli and Yi Lu nodded their heads. And we definitely will. Dad. Since you have already found a girlfriend, then give birth to a child so that your mom won't get bored every day. God Yi, Luciener, we just confirmed our relationship today, and to immediately give birth to a child, isn't this a bit too fast? However, Donghuang Baiji tacitly agreed to Yihua's words. You two have a good chat. After finished speaking, Yihua walked out of the bedroom, appearing a bit abnormal. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji were already used to it. After all, Yihua had always been like this for the past few years. Qingya, how about we ask Yuan Qing for help and let Yin, or go on a blind date? Donghuang Baiji immediately thought of Yihua's little sister. No matter what, she is an empress, and she definitely has a lot of resources in her hands. Qingya felt that this suggestion was not bad. Finding a daughter-in-law doesn't necessarily have to be from a rich family. Yi family doesn't lack such people at all. The main thing is that Yener likes the girl, and the girl that likes Yener, that is enough. Mom, I will look for someone myself. Really, how old am I? And I am already going on a blind date. Yi Yan never expected that he would be walking on the path of a blind date, when he is not even 18 years old. Gadi said lightly, Brother, you have to listen to Mom. Facing Gadia's teasing, Yi Yan immediately rolled his eyes. You already have a girlfriend now, and you are just waiting to give birth to a child. Brother, are you sure that you have to listen to Mom? Yi Lu immediately rebelled. I am very curious about what kind of girl my brother is going to find. Yi Lu feels that I must definitely find a girl that can suppress my brother. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji laughed tenderly, and even Lu Xian'er revealed out a smile. I feel that the atmosphere isn't that tense anymore. The main reason is because Uncle Yi left with that oppressive atmosphere. Yihua came to the bar counter downstairs. Wei Chang was currently holding onto a broom, and was currently cleaning the bar. It has been a long time since I last cleaned the bar, and there is quite a lot of dust in the bar. Come over and have a drink with me. Yihua poured 2 cups of vodka, added a little bit of ice, and said lightly. Wei Chang walked over respectfully. Seeing that his honor's expression wasn't that good, this shouldn't be the case. The children have already returned. Why is his honor still frowning? Your honor? I am fine, I am just feeling a bit emotional. Yihua lightly took a sip of the vodka. Wei Chang knew that his honor felt embarrassed to show off in front of his family, and that's why his honor ran downstairs to have a drink. Your honor, what about our next mission? Next, we will just have to wait for them to return. It should be about time for them to return in a few days. At that time, we will have another meeting. After finished speaking, Yihua patted onto Wei Chang's shoulder and said again, It is time for us old fellows to retire. This is the world of the youngsters. Your honor? Yihua took a deep breath and did not say anything. Your honor, all these years, are you still worried that that fortune teller is related to the guardian? Wei Chang understood Yihua very well. After all, that fortune teller was the first person who used fantasy to deceive his honor. Towards this kind of person, his honor would definitely be very vigilant. Chapter 13:15. Whether it's related or not, to us, it doesn't seem to be a good thing. It is rather troublesome, and we cannot underestimate the strength of those guardians. Wei Chang nodded his head. He understood the strength of the guardians. For every single one of them to reach the same level as 7 sins, it could be seen how powerful they were. Go and ask Blood Demon to prepare a good meal. Everyone should gather together. The children should also get to know new friends. Yes, Your Honor. If not for Yi Hua going upstairs to call for people, Qingye and Donghuang Baiji would probably be able to talk for 3 days and 3 nights, and they might not even be able to finish. The children more or less knew about some things. It seems like during these years that I left, a lot of accidents happened. I missed out on a lot of things. I still have my uncle. Daddy actually still has a blood brother that I lost contact with for many years, and Grandma. My God, however, from Mother's expression, this uncle that I haven't met yet seems to not be doing well, and many of Daddy's subordinates have gone out to train. As for why did they suddenly go out, Mother did not say anything. It's just that the children were curious, feeling as if they had missed out on 100 million. Lucien sat at the side and poured tea for them from time to time, looking very virtuous. This made Qingye and Donghuang Baiji's impression of her rise. As a daughter-in-law, she has reached the standard. Very quickly, everyone arrived at Wuxia Empire's palace. Right now, everyone was waiting for Lord Little Honor's arrival. Lu Jing was naturally among them, and Gong Yu was also there with her child. To Yi Yi, those older and younger brothers of mine are like a mystery. Today they are back. I wonder if they are easy to get along with. Looking at Mother who was at the side, I feel that Mother is not happy in this palace. Perhaps she is waiting for Daddy to return. If not, I really want to bring Mother away from this palace. Maybe Mother will be a bit happier. Other than the people who went out to train, everyone else was present. A white light flashed past, and a few figures appeared in everyone's field of vision. Lu Jing looked at the 5 youngsters. She was extremely happy, but she was also puzzled. Why is there one more child? Didn't they say that there are only 4 children? To Lucien, today was simply like a dream. From here to there, from there to here. And there are so many people. Welcome, Your Honor. Your wife. Little Supreme One. All of the subordinates shouted out respectfully, and their voices were extremely loud and clear. However, right after the subordinates shouted out, the entire Wuxia Empire resounded with the same voice. Welcome, Your Honor. Your honorable wife. Little Senior. The entire Voidless Empire seemed as though it was about to burst into a frenzy. Naturally, it was all thanks to the management of the various subordinates that they were able to achieve such a consensus. Anyway, it was the first time Lucien had seen such a scene. Suddenly, she felt that her face was very hot, as if her blood was burning. Of course, her scalp was also a little numb. This was too shocking. The sky suddenly darkened, and in the blink of an eye, it seemed to be late at night. Bayu, a dazzling firework rushed into the night sky, blossoming into dazzling sparks. It was truly very beautiful. The children hadn't seen it for many years. Now that they saw it, they were overjoyed. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji didn't know that Yi Hua had such an arrangement. Looking at Yi Hua's back view, Qingye discovered that during the past few years, this man seemed to have been hiding some things in his heart, and didn't even talk to us and the others. Bayubi. The entire Voidless Empire rang out with the cheers of the people, as if they were celebrating the new year. The fireworks in the sky illuminated the faces of the people time and time again, bringing with them a sense of joy. No matter how beautiful the fireworks were, there would always be an end. As the sky turned bright, Lu Jing took a step forward with a kind smile. Children, let Grandma have a look. Grandma. The children were naturally familiar with each other, and all of them ran over at the same time. After that, all sorts of bootlicking began. However, only Donghuang Li and Yi Lu were rather intimate with each other. As men, Yi Yan and God Yi were not that gentle. Yo, you are even more handsome than me now, not bad, not bad. At this moment, Lai Gu looked at Yi Yan and teased. In the past, Yi Yan would also play around with Lai Gu and often joke around with him. After all, Lai Gu dared to joke around with his honor, let alone little his honor. Uncle Lai Gu, it has been many years since we last met, and you are still as handsome as ever. Seems like after growing up, Yi Yan had also become an old driver. Let Uncle Lai Gu take a good look and see if our little his honor has been conquered by that girl or not. Looking at Lai Gu's unbridled gaze, Yi Yan immediately covered his mouth. What girl? Then what you are doing is wrong, even at your age, his honor. Everyone looked at Lai Gu, and Lai Gu immediately covered his mouth, then looked at the blue sky and said, I wonder if blood demon rice is ready yet. I am a bit hungry. The wives immediately looked towards Yi Hua, seemingly asking, we have been husband and wife for so many years, yet you are still lying to us. Yi Yan looked at his father, seemingly asking, is it true? Daddy, are you so awesome? Does mommy know? God, Yi pulled Lu Xianer over, and when Lu Jing saw that her grandson already has a girlfriend, she smiled even more happily. Looking at my grandson, he is much more enlightened than my two sons. At such a young age, he is already able to solve his personal problems. In the future, he will be able to focus on his career. Of course, the children still do not know Qian Yuqing, so they still had to introduce her. The children knew that their father definitely has a new wife, but it seems like this is still their father's first love. There is still no problem with their father's eyesight. This auntie is very beautiful. It has been so many years since they last had a child together. This is quite strange. Right now, the children naturally had to greet Gongyu. After all, she is the wife of their father's younger brother, and there is even a child beside her. This child should be considered as a younger brother, right? This was also the first time that Gongyu met the children, and thus, she also prepared a greeting gift. Although the gift was not very expensive, it was still enough to fulfill her intention. Yi call big brother and big sister. Gongyu said tenderly. Yi seemed to be a bit unnatural, but he still shouted out respectfully. Greetings to big brother and big sister. Yi Yan patted onto Yi's shoulder. Little brother, in the future, follow big brother. I guarantee that I will bring you flying. Just as Yi Yan finished speaking, he felt a pain at the back of his head. Big sister, give me some face, there are so many people here. Yi Yan's helpless expression caused everyone to laugh out loud. Seems like his honor's concern for me is still the same as when I was young. And there isn't any estrangement after I grew up. This is truly worthy of celebration. However, this also achieved Yi Hua's goal. Alright, let's talk while we eat later. Yi Hua said lightly. Today is a good day. I am able to open a few bottles of wine and drink with my subordinates. Dong Huangli suddenly felt that a huge fatty had appeared beside her. From the looks of it, this fatty looks even more meatball than a meatball. Chapter 13-16. Dong Huangli knew that this was father's direct subordinate, Qing Su. But why is he looking for me? Looking at her father's serious expression, Dong Huangli looked towards her father confusedly. Yi Hua didn't say anything, he knew what Qing Su wanted to do. After all, Qing Su was currently Dong Huangli's fan. This doesn't mean that Dong Huangli's strength is stronger than Qing Su's. Rather, Dong Huangli's ideals and the things that Dong Huangli did made Qing Su feel incomparable admiration. Therefore, please accept me as your disciple. Qing Su yelled with extreme sincerity. This caused everyone in the surroundings to be dumbfounded. They knew that you worshipped him in your heart, but they didn't expect you to worship him to such an extent that you even came out to acknowledge him as your master. Dong Huangli was stupefied by Qing Su. Please accept me as your disciple, little revered. Qing Su pleaded once again. That pious look of his was truly shocking. Yi Hua stopped his footsteps and looked at Qing Su while feeling helpless in his heart. This fellow is truly capable of doing anything. Dong Huangli looked towards her father, and was a bit at a loss as to what to do. It seemed a little strange for a subordinate of his father to ask him to be his disciple. Yi Hua gave Qing Su a do-as-you-see-fit expression. This kind of thing was a subordinate's voluntary action, and for Qing Su to do such a thing was also a normal situation. Therefore, his daughter could do as she saw fit. Qing Su saw that little senior was not speaking. He thought that little senior was not willing, so he hurriedly said, I really admire little senior, it's true. I can swear to the heavens that I am also a poison cultivator. And when I saw little senior's martial arts competition, I was simply unable to hide the surging emotions in my heart. Therefore, I can only take you as my master. I hope that little senior can accept me. Everyone was already used to Qing Su's passion for refining poison. As long as he could be of help in refining poison, he would do anything. You also know poison? Speaking of concocting poison, Dong Huangli's interest was immediately piqued. After all, it wasn't easy to find a like-minded person. That's right. I'm proficient in concocting many different kinds of poisons. Little Honorable, we can discuss the profoundness of concocting poisons together. Qing Su started to boast. There's a chance, there's definitely a chance. Dong Huangli laughed coquettishly. Since it's just a discussion, there's no need for me to take you as my teacher. It's fine for us to just exchange our experiences with each other. This isn't good, right? There's nothing bad about it. This is also scientific research, right? Dong Huangli helped Qing Su up from the ground. All of Qing Su's subordinates admired Dong Huangli. Dong Huangli chose to sit on equal footing with Qing Su, and everyone could clearly see what Dong Huangli was thinking. Perhaps after his honor abdicates, Dong Huangli will be able to inherit his honor's position. Right now, Qing Su was also starting to admire Dong Huangli. To be able to accept me as an apprentice, how glorious is this? Little His Honor actually used this kind of method to protect his face. Little His Honor is truly a good Little His Honor. A gratified smile appeared on Dong Huangbaiji's face. My daughter is much more sensible now. Perhaps, Ali will be able to inherit my position. As for Yen, I will have to see how he performs. Only Ali or Yen can inherit the position of this deity. Just when everyone was preparing to go and eat, Zhu Tian suddenly went into a daze, then hurriedly walked out from the group and said respectfully, Your Honor, they are coming back. Hearing Absolute Heaven's words, everyone was stunned. Those people who went out to train for 12 years, and now they are finally coming back. Among those people there were wives, and there were also husbands. Everyone was looking forward to their early return. Gong Yu's entire body became stiff. During these 12 years, the only person who was able to support me was Yi Juetian. Every single day, I would be on tenterhooks, afraid that my big brother would walk in from the outside and tell me with a sorrowful expression that Zhu Tian. Thus, every time Gong Yu saw Yi Hua, she would be very nervous and afraid. But right now, after hearing Yi Hua's words, Gong Yu felt as if she was going to faint, and she was so excited that her entire body was trembling. Yi, who was at the side, couldn't help but become nervous. Ever since I was born, I have never seen my father even once. Sometimes, I would see my mother secretly crying, and that kind of sadness made me feel very sad. I even heard from the palace maids that back then, my mother was very bad, and I nearly went berserk and killed that viper-like palace maid. To actually say that my mother is a bad woman, my mother is the best mother in the world, no one can compare to her. Everyone who says that my mother is bad deserves to die. Not only was Gong Yu excited, right now, Li Jing was also very excited. My son has been out for so long, and now he is finally coming back. This is truly a blessing from the heavens. No accident happened to my son. If an accident happened to my son, I don't even know if I will be able to continue living. Wei Chang was also very excited. Tang Wei had left me for 12 years, and I don't even know how she managed to get through all these years. Only when you lose someone, will you know how important someone is. Zhu Tian was also very excited. Yu could be considered to be the weakest among everyone. Although he would visit her every day, he was still very worried in his heart. If an accident happened to her son, his intestines would turn green from regret. Right now, Zishan was also incomparably excited. In the past, when I was together with Yi Hong, I would often bully Yi Hong, and I even felt that Yi Hong was a good-for-nothing. But after Yi Hong left, only then did Zishan realize one thing, and that was that Yi Hong was already inseparable from her life. Without Yi Hong, even the sky would lose its color. Of course, there was also Do Fushi and Lai Gu. Both of them were looking forward to the return of their loved ones. It has been so many years, and it has truly been hard on them. Yihua took out a stick of cigarette and lit it up. I am finally coming back. These people have returned triumphantly. The decision I made back then was still the right one. Only by experiencing life and death can one become stronger. And only then can one realize what one wants. Everyone looked at Yihua, who was smoking, and none of them made a sound. As the ashes of the cigarette fell onto the ground, Yihua extinguished the cigarette with his foot. Then, with a wave of his hand, a huge black hole appeared in the middle of the spacious and empty venue. Everyone's gaze was looking at the black hole, because they were going to walk out from the black hole with their own glory. Suddenly, a sharp aura spread out from the black hole. This aura carried killing intent, it carried steadiness, and it carried respect towards Yihua. A huge gale suddenly started blowing at the venue, and the sky gradually darkened. Because the aura was becoming stronger and stronger, the entire Wuxia Empire could sense it. It wasn't that those people were trying to act cool, but rather, living in that kind of world, one had to maintain vigilance at all times. If not, one would only die. Thus, one had to be prepared to fight at all times. Everyone looked at the black hole, and suddenly, a figure appeared from within. It was a figure that did not have any arms. Yihua knew that other than his little brother, there was also LV Shu, who did not have any arms. However, his little brother was currently the boss of the team. Thus, Yi Juetian slowly walked out of the black hole. Chapter 13-17. Everyone looked at Yi Juetian and discovered that Yi Juetian had changed. He had really changed. Even his entire temperament had changed. If the Yi Juetian in the past was just an ignorant child, then the current Yi Juetian would be able to take on a lot of responsibilities. Gong Yu was already sobbing uncontrollably. If not for her son supporting her, she would have already sat on the ground. Lu Jing's heart was aching. If it was possible, she still hoped that little Tian would still be the little Tian in the past. The current little Tian seemed to be filled with too much killing intent. The scars on his face, the broken arm, all of these represented the many years of experience that he had gone through. Yihua looked at his own younger brother, and unconsciously nodded his head. This is what a man should be like. In the past he was just a sissy, and Yi actually liked that kind of sissy. Right now this is what a hero should be like. If Yi was still alive, she might have liked him. As for Yi's matter, it was better not to tell little Tian. Although Yihua gave little Tian a broken jade, that broken jade would never respond to him. After all, Yi was already gone, and no one would break that broken jade. As for those people in the city, Yihua didn't mention them anymore, so he was slightly more at ease. However, Yihua also knew that the truth could not be concealed forever, and there would be a day when little Tian would find out about Yi's matter. After all, the reason why little Tian was able to go and train was all because of Yi. However, it was not easy for Gong Yu too. She had been raising a child by herself for so many years, and everyone knew how much hardship she had suffered. This was different from Dong Huangbaiji back then. Dong Huangbaiji had been raising a child by herself for 3 years, while Gong Yu had been raising a child for 12 years. Dong Huangbaiji understood Gong Yu's feelings the most. However, the difference was that Dong Huangbaiji held a grudge against Gong Yu for those 3 years, while Gong Yu was worried about Gong Yu. The 4 children looked at this unfamiliar uncle and seemed very surprised, because they didn't know that this uncle actually looked exactly the same as their father. This is simply too mystical. No wonder Yi also looks so similar to their father. So it turns out that their father and uncle are exactly the same. But this uncle looks so powerful. His expression is so dignified. I feel that he is even cooler than my father. Yi Juetian walked out of the black hole and looked at the familiar palace. This palace would appear in his dreams every day. And of course, a beautiful figure would also appear in his dreams. Right now, I have completely changed and returned. I am no longer the Yi Juetian from before, and I have the strength to protect you. A soft sobbing sound attracted Yi Juetian's attention. Looking towards the source of the voice, Yi Juetian's entire body trembled. That's Gongyu. Gongyu was actually released by Big Brother. How could this be possible? But the boy beside Gongyu, who is he? They look alike. Could it be? Although Yi Juetian was thinking of Yi in his heart, when he saw Gongyu and Yi beside him, he felt as if he had been struck by lightning. Yi Juetian slowly walked up the stairs, and when he saw Gongyu crying bitterly, he didn't know what he was feeling. In this world, not only Yi, there is also Gongyu. This woman is also waiting for me to return home. At this moment, Yi looked at his unfamiliar father from a close distance. His gaze was very complicated. He missed his father, but he also had complaints. Why did he make his mother wait for so long? Father, don't you have your mother in your heart? Then why did I appear? Gongyu. Yi Juetian slowly raised his left hand, wanting to touch Gongyu's beautiful hair, but then he stopped. He felt that he had let Gongyu down, and that he did not deserve this kind of action. Gongyu, on the other hand, did not have that kind of thinking. While choking with sobs, she threw herself into Yi Juetian's embrace and let out a happy yet sorrowful cry. Yi Juetian used his only left hand and lightly patted Gongyu's back. I'm back. I have been waiting for you to come back. I have been waiting for you every day. Gongyu's voice was trembling, and this trembling seemed to be because she was afraid that everything in front of her was fake, and that this was her own dream. Because this method of meeting, she had already dreamt of it countless of times. Hearing Gongyu's trembling voice, Yi Juetian's heart trembled. In actuality, when he was at the other side, the one he thought about the most was Yi, and Gongyu was really very little. However, after seeing the current Gongyu, only then did Yi Juetian know how much of a scumbag he was. I shouldn't disappoint Gongyu, and also, quickly come over and greet father. Gongyu finally remembered that her son was by her side, and hurriedly pulled her son over. Yi Juetian was only guessing just now, but after hearing Gongyu personally say it, he was completely dumbfounded. I actually have a child. And it's already so big. No wonder Big Brother let Gongyu out, so it was because Gongyu was pregnant. Indeed, if Gongyu wasn't pregnant, then Yi Juetian shouldn't be able to see Gongyu here. Yi looked at the tall and big father in front of him, and wanted to call out the word father. But no matter what, he was unable to call out the word, to a child who had never seen his father before. This situation was indeed very normal, because Yi was very panic-stricken in his heart. Gongyu, it has been hard on you for so many years. What is the child called? Yi Juetian looked at his own child. That child's appearance is extremely similar to me and Gongyu, but the little fellow seems to be angry. It's no wonder that he would be angry after all. I only came back so late, and I let this mother and son live together for so many years. Juetian, the child's name is Yi, quickly greet father. Gongyu seemed to be a bit anxious. In this kind of situation, I cannot be so unruly, and Big Brother is still watching from the side. However, Yi's head was lowered, and he still didn't utter a single word, as if he was a bit autistic. When Yihua saw this scene, he didn't say anything. Towards Yi, this child, Yihua had watched him grow up, and Yi treated his mother very well and was very filial. Right now, Yihua's ostracism towards his little brother was only temporary. After all, Yihua had just come back, and to the child, Yihua was no different from a stranger. You child. Gongyu seemed to be a bit angry. My ear is very sensible, but today he is acting so strangely. Gongyu, it's all right, we still have to properly communicate with each other. Yi Juetian said with a slight smile, then stretched out his hand and stroked Yi's head. Luckily, Yi didn't avoid his father's stroking. Gongyu nodded her head, then looked at her child confusedly. At this moment, Yi Juetian walked to Lu Jing's side, then bowed and shouted, Mother, your unfilial son has returned, sorry for making you worry. Lu Jing hurriedly held onto Yi Juetian's shoulders, then said with tears of joy, It's good that you have returned. It's good that you have returned. Xiao Tian, it has been hard on you these past few years. Mother, I have made you worry for so many years. Xiao Tian has been unfilial. Silly child, your safety is mother's greatest joy. Lu Jing said tenderly. Xiao Tian has truly grown up, and it is still Yihua who has a way to deal with him. Chapter 13:18. At this moment, Yi Juetian walked towards Yihua. After being separated for 12 years, the two brothers looked at each other. Big brother, little brother didn't disappoint you. Yi Juetian shouted respectfully. Yihua nodded his head. Xiao Tian, you didn't disappoint big brother, good job. Hearing his big brother's praise, Yi Juetian felt that all these years that he had lived for was worth it. Take a good bath later on. Then bring your wife and child over to eat. Yihua patted onto his little brother's shoulder. It really isn't easy. Yes, big brother. Are these big brother's children? Yi Juetian looked at the 4 children. Yihua nodded his head. What are you waiting for? Uncle. The 4 children obediently called out. Although they were not familiar with this strange uncle, they felt that he was quite easy to get along with and was not a person of power. Yihua stood at the side and introduced the children. When Yi Juetian looked at his big brother's children, he couldn't help but feel moved in his heart. At that time, I knew that big brother told the children to rely on themselves. I reckon that it hasn't been long since big brother came back. Such a small child. Thinking about it, big brother is quite heartless. When I was at his age, I was still playing with mud. Yihua looked at the black hole and waited for everyone. Of course, there was also a rather special person, and that person was the guardian. Little Tian. Big brother, what's wrong? What is the situation with the guardian that is following you all? Yihua asked faintly. Yi Juetian was puzzled. Big brother, you know about this? I absolute heaven, I'm the one who is tracking him. Yi Juetian had thought that his big brother had really abandoned the group of people, but I didn't expect that his big brother was also that kind of person who had a sharp mouth but a soft heart. He doesn't seem to know anything, Yi Juetian said in a low voice. You don't even know your own name? Yihua asked gravely. Yi Juetian nodded. Yes. How's his strength? Very strong. Yi Juetian could only give this answer. It was impossible for him to determine Xiao Chen's true strength, and he would only know after trying. Yihua didn't continue asking. There seems to be a bit of a problem with this guardian. At the very least, the other guardians know my name, while this guardian doesn't even remember my name. Let's wait and see first. Yihua transmitted a message to his subordinates, telling them to be on guard in case any accidents were to occur. The next person to walk out was Tang Wei. Compared to before, the current Tang Wei did not appear weak. Instead, she gave off a completely new aura, appearing just like a female god of death. Training in such a place could indeed change a person. After all, one had to face death every day. If one could not change this, then this person would be more awesome. Tang Wei glanced at Wei Chang, who was in the team. Wei Chang also did the same, his gaze locked onto Tang Wei. Sparks flew in the air as their gazes collided, but it was not the sparks of love. Wei Chang was taken aback. Because Tang Wei suddenly disappeared from where she stood, a scarlet long blade suddenly appeared in her hand, and directly chopped towards Wei Chang. Everyone was stunned by this sudden incident. Dong Huangli was very confused. Didn't Uncle Wei and Tang Wei have a very good relationship? Why did Tang Wei kill Uncle Wei the moment she came back? Did Uncle Wei find a mistress? It was possible. Although Tang Wei looked soft and weak, she was still very conservative in this aspect. As for how his father could look for him so openly, perhaps it was because his mother spoiled him. Or perhaps it was because his father's acting skills were too good. He was able to deceive his mother every single time. Wei Chang seemed to know why Tang Wei was like this. Back then, I was in my betrayal period, and it was also during that period that Tang Wei went to train. Seems like Tang Wei's temper was very big. If not, I will chop down on Wei Chang to calm down. After all, I am also a bit in the wrong. Wei Chang did not move at all, and allowed Tang Wei to chop down on him. The ferocious long blade emitted out a scorching aura, and Wei Chang's hair was blown into a mess by the aura of the blade. Whoosh. At this moment, the world seemed to have quietened down. This is too scary. Tang Wei's long blade stopped on top of Wei Chang's head, almost splitting open his head. Why didn't you dodge? Tang Wei asked coldly. Wei Chong stared at Tang Wei, then suddenly stretched out his hand and hugged onto Tang Wei's waist. And then he actually kissed Tang Wei in front of everyone. The single dogs felt their hearts clenching. Kissing in front of his honor. This is simply too savage. If you have the ability, find me a girlfriend and do this too. Not right, Yuer seems to have returned. Perhaps, if she doesn't like Zhu Tian anymore, I will be able to snatch her away. Thinking about it, there seems to be a bit of a possibility. God Yi suddenly held onto Lu Xian's small hand tightly, causing Lu Xian's heart to tremble. What is this fellow trying to do? Could it be that he wants to learn from Uncle Wei and kiss? Isn't this too fast? No, I must reject him. But with so many people rejecting God Yi, it seems like they are not giving God Yi any face. The kiss seemed to be very long, and everyone stopped looking at it. In front of everyone, at this moment, Yihong walked out from the black hole. Compared to the past, Yihong appeared to be very calm and steady, and seemed to have a sense of responsibility. Furthermore, there was even a strong sense of self-confidence, which was not present in the past. When Zishan saw that Yihong appeared and did not have any broken arms or legs, she was incomparably happy and immediately rushed over. With tears at the corner of her eyes, Zishan floated in the air. Yihong naturally saw Zishan as well, and her stern face that was filled with killing intent became gentle. Zishan opened up her arms and tightly hugged onto her lover, as if she wanted to fuse into her lover's body. Alright, they kissed again. Next, it was time for Li Hun to appear. When Dou Fusher saw that his wife had returned, he was so happy. You two are kissing. I am going to give my wife a hug and a kiss too. Thus, Dou Fusher also rushed over. However, an accident happened. Li Hun, who was very strong, actually pressed onto Dou Fusher. This caused Dou Fusher to be dumbfounded. Wife, what are you doing? What am I doing? You went out to fool around, and there was no news of you at all. So why are you still asking me? When did I go out to fool around? On the other hand, you have already been out for 12 years. Li Hun snorted, then forcefully kissed Dou Fusher without saying anything else. This caused Dou Fusher to feel both happy and depressed. Why is it that Li Hun is the one who takes the initiative every time? Am I Dou Fusher not a man? Do I Dou Fusher not care about face? I, Dou Fusher, am also a respectable person, alright? And I even did it in front of so many big shots. Soon after, 3 beautiful figures walked out. Lai Gu's eyes lit up. My wife has returned. All of you are giving me a French kiss. I have to go and kiss them as well. All of you kiss 1. I, Lai Gu, will kiss 3. This is how strong I am. The kind of strength that needs no explanation. The entire scene seemed to have turned into a sea of passionate kisses. Gong Yu covered her son's eyes, but her gaze was also looking towards Yi Juetian. It seemed like Yi Juetian also wanted to receive a kiss from Yi Juetian, even if it was just a light tap on the lips of Yi Juetian. However, Yi Juetian didn't seem to have such thoughts, and this caused Gong Yu to feel a bit down. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.